No?
He said no in the chat.
Oh.
So it's not our mic because Jessica could hear us on her computer.
Yeah, no, something.
Oh yeah, we can do that. Sorry. Maybe we picked the wrong this again.
You hear us?
Yeah.
I think we can hear him.
I feel like I can hear us too.
Yeah.
The volume's just down.
Hello?
That's Orduño. No. Already did. Already did.
Can you hear us now?
No, I cannot hear you.
What just okay.
You hear us yet?
It's a little 100. Hello?
Can you hear us?
I can hear you in your office, but I cannot hear him here.
Okay. Jessica, see if he would maybe log out and log back in.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
We can
We
hear
can
you.
hear you.
Oh,
Can you hear us?
okay, I can hear you now.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Get you fixed up here.
Okay. All right, Manuel, how you doing? I'm Jesse. Nice to meet you today.
Nice to meet you. I'm doing very good.
Good. We have a Cruz Castañeda first.
Yes.
Does he speak English?
No.
Okay, I speak some Spanish too, so if he needs help, I'll go through it. Does he speak any English at all?
¿Habla poquito inglés? No, nothing at all.
Okay, no worries. We'll take care of it on our end.
Okay.
Was there anything new that is different from the evaluation you submitted?
No.
Okay. Colleagues, you have any questions? We have no que- You can go ahead and bring him in unless he's already there.
Okay.
All right. Hola, buenos días.
Buenos días.
Me llamo Jesse Rincón y conmigo está la señora, se llama Meredith Lamberti y también James Moses, ¿ok? Por favor, dime tu nombre y tu número.
Mi nombre es Ever Eli Cruz Castañeda y mi número es 6064077.
Ok, gracias. Te voy a explicar cómo va eso. Somos 3 miembros de la junta. Esta junta es público y la gente del público pueden escuchar también, pero no pueden hablar, no pueden participar. Y podemos hablar cosas de tu salud mental, tu médico y tratamientos y más. ¿Estás bien con eso y quieres seguir?
No, estoy bien.
Ok, gracias. Primero te voy a preguntar, describe lo que pasó el día que pasó el delito. Por favor, sea detallado. Después, yo y los otros miembros vamos a tener preguntas para usted. Por favor, contesta lo más bueno que puedes. cuando terminamos las preguntas, te voy a preguntarte si hay más información o tienes algo preparado para decir los miembros. Después, nosotros tres miembros vamos a comenzar a la adición lo que va a pasar. En este tiempo, por favor, no hablas y yo luego voy a regresar con la decisión, ¿ok?
Okay.
Ok. So, lo que pasó, dime qué pasó por qué estás ahí en el cárcel ahorita.
Oh, pues yo estoy aquí por abuso sexual.
Ok.
Eh, el día que pasó, pues estaba yo en la casa en Des Moines, vivía en Des Moines, no sé la dirección exactamente,
Ujú.
yo tenía 5 meses de haber llegado de mi país, vivía en Des Moines, entonces pues trabajaba pegando aire y pues el jefe que teníamos pues dijo que llevaría una muchacha a la casa, ¿verdad? Pues entonces, eh, pues le dije yo que una semana después iba a ser mi cumpleaños y que dejáramos esa para la siguiente semana. Pues se llegó el fin de semana y pues yo estaba en mi cuarto cuando el jefe llegó a la casa. Entonces, pues ya llegó con su esposa y la muchacha que era prima de la esposa de él.
Ah,
Y pues llevó bebidas, llevó cerveza y whisky. Entonces,
entonces estabas tomado.
sí,
Ajá.
empezamos a tomar cuando ya, pues ya tomados, el jefe dijo que la muchacha pues quería tener relaciones sexuales. Entonces, pues ya se fue el primero a tener relaciones sexuales con el que ella quería tener relaciones. Y pues ya dijo el jefe, pues voy a ir, que iba a ir él, ¿verdad? Entonces, pues ya fue el jefe y luego salió él y entró el sobrino de él. Bueno, entonces ya cuando el sobrino de él salió, pues ya vine y me fui yo también para el cuarto. Entonces, pues la mera verdad, pues yo la vi caer en la cama, pues estaba inconsciente, alcoholizada, ¿verdad? Y pues yo también estaba tomado, entonces empecé a tocarla, pues, y a extremo, pues, que llegué, ahí fue cuando yo cometí mi delito de abusar de ella, pues. Entonces, cuando
Y
ya,
en este momento se enojó ella.
no, no, no dijo nada, en ese momento no dijo nada, cuando yo salí, fue cuando entró otro. Entonces, pues él solo entró y a la misma vez salió. Ya cuando estábamos en la sala de la casa,
Ujú.
pues entonces ya ella salió del cuarto y se fue para el garage y pasó pidiendo un cigarrillo. Entonces, pues vine yo, pues fumaba en ese entonces, tenía una cajita de cigarros y pues le fui a dar un cigarro. Cuando ella estaba en el garage y yo llegué a darle el cigarro, pues ella estaba llorando,
Sí.
pero como yo no sé inglés, entonces no pude preguntarle nada. Solo le di el cigarro y pidió fuego, pues lo encendió y luego yo me regresé para la casa, para adentro de la casa. Fue cuando yo, pues, ya no aguanté, estaba muy tomado y me fui para mi cuarto.
Okay, dame un momento, por favor. So I basically asked him what happened. He basically went through the same synopsis that we have on our evaluation. He said that he was drinking whiskey and beer at the time. Um, he didn't speak English and she didn't speak Spanish. And so he went into her room as he was intoxicated. Um, he said that really, he didn't really seem to realize that something was wrong until she went to the garage, saw her crying and smoking a cigarette. That's when he went home. So that's what he said. But he said he was pretty intoxicated. Okay, síguele, por favor.
¿ok? Pues ya cuando entré adentro de la casa, pues yo, como le cuento, ya me fui para el cuarto a acostarme y ya de ahí en adelante no sé qué haya pasado, pero cuando yo vine a sentir fue porque ya los policías me llegaron a sacar del cuarto. Y ya
¿Ese fue el mismo día o el próximo día?
no, fue en la madrugada.
Okay.
Esa, en el transcurso de ese trayecto,
Okay.
sí, fue de madrugada. Pues entonces ya nos tenían a todos en la sala y preguntando qué había pasado. Pues dijeron que si queríamos ir a dar una declaración y pues dijimos que sí, ¿verdad? Porque pues no tenía idea de lo que había pasado y pues ya cuando pasamos a declarar uno a uno fue cuando ya me detuvieron. Entonces pues ya me llevaron para la cárcel del condado y ahí me tuvieron unos días y ya cuando me llevaron a la sentencia y ya me sentenciaron, pues entonces me mandaron ya para Odio, ¿verdad? Entonces estuve unos días en Odio y ya luego me trasladaron para Clarinda.
Okay. Y sabes que así está bien. Tengo otras preguntas para usted. I'm gonna ask him a different question now, brother, than I haven't. I'm gonna ask him if he has any other victims as well.
What did
Go
he
ahead.
say anything else about? You asked
He-
something
he-
about what, was it the same day or the next day?
Yeah, he said it was the same. He says that he was drunk, so it was kind of hard for him to distinguish when I was like, because he didn't realize something was wrong until the cops came. So it's basically said. So, ¿tienes otras víctimas o ella fue el primero víctima?
Sí, ella fue la única víctima.
Okay, so he's only saying that she's the only victim. I'm asking what you learned in class. ¿Qué aprendiste en tus clases?
Pues mire, la verdad yo aprendí muchísimo, pues aprendí sobre mis banderas rojas, sobre mis factores de riesgo, pues también aprendí el daño que causé, entonces le causé a mi víctima, pues los daños que le causé mentales, físicamente, entonces también eh, le causé daño pues a la familia de ella también, ¿verdad? Y incluso también me llevé entre la decisión que yo tomé ese día, también le causé daño a mi familia. Entonces, y todo eso, pues, gracias a Dios lo aprendí en el tratamiento que me brindaron.
Gracias. Dame un momento. So, he said that the class he took, he got a lot from it, and he realized, what he put the victim through and the family and his family as well. So basically, he took from SOTP, I think, when we were open to. You guys have any questions you want me to ask him?
I,
I ask him.
about just his family. I think his parents are still in Guatemala,
Yeah,
and his wife, where she is, and his family support.
¿Y todo tu soporte de tu familia está en Guatemala ahorita?
Sí, mire, toda mi familia está en Guatemala, toda mi familia, mis hijos, mis padres, mi esposa, toda mi familia. Yo prácticamente aquí en Estados Unidos estaba solo, estaba con un amigo nada más. Sí.
Okay. ¿Y tú eres pescador ahí en Guatemala?
Sí, fíjate que gracias a Dios somos pescadores. Mi papá toda su vida ha sido pescador
Ajá.
y pues gracias a Dios siempre nos ha apoyado a nosotros. Somos 11 hermanos y él pues ha tenido la responsabilidad de sacarnos adelante a todos y nos ha enseñado el trabajo familiar. Entonces, pues también las veces que he hablado con él por teléfono, pues él me ha dicho que él ya tiene su edad, ¿verdad? Entonces ya se retiró de la pesca y entonces pues ya me tiene el equipo de pesca para cuando yo
Okay.
llegue y primero Dios a
So,
empezar.
sí tienes trabajo cuando llegas, ¿verdad?
Y tengo
Ok,
trabajo, gracias a Dios,
está
trabajo
bien.
familiar,
Un
sí.
momento, por favor. So he says he does have work. His family are fishermen. There's 11 brothers. He has work to go back to, but his family's been fishing forever over there.
And his
He's native. Yeah, all his family there. ¿Y tu señor está ahí en Guatemala también?
Sí, en
Yeah.
Guatemala también, sí.
Okay, gracias. Do you have any questions? No.
Did he come to the US for money to work, or were there danger issues that had him?
Lo que quiere saber ella es que si veniste porque ella quiere saber por qué viniste para dinero o fue otras cosas que viniste de Estados Unidos.
Mire, le voy a contar un poquito. La mera verdad, yo estuve unos meses en Canadá.
Ajá.
Tenía visa de trabajo y gracias a Dios en los meses que tuve allá logré comprar unos terrenos. Bueno, entonces pues ya decidí que hablé con mi papá que quería venir a Estados Unidos para poder hacerle una casita a mis hijos y a mi esposa. Entonces, pues él, gracias a Dios, como le digo, nos tiene en la casa en la casa de él, pues vivimos y me dice que para qué me iba a venir, ¿verdad? Al cabo tenía dónde vivir. Pues yo le dije que quería hacer una casa para mis hijos con mi propio esfuerzo. Entonces, pues él ya me brindó el apoyo de prestarme ese dinero para poder viajar para acá. Entonces,
¿Entraste ilegal aquí a Estados Unidos?
la verdad que sí, entré ilegal, ¿para qué le voy a mentir?
Pero el mero razón es porque quería hacer una casa para tu hijo, ¿verdad?
Para
Okay.
mis hijos, sí.
Un momento, por favor. So he said his main reason for coming here, he went to Canada first. He had a visa to work there, but he entered over here to the United States so he could get out, hopefully buy a house for his kids and his wife. That was the whole reason.
Okay, so he doesn't face any safety issues going back?
No. Any other question?
No.
James? No. Entonces, es todas las preguntas que tenemos. So, si tienes algo, o quieres nosotros saber algo más información que tú tienes, es tu tiempo ahorita.
No, pues, la verdad que no, les agradezco muchísimo esta oportunidad que me están dando, entonces, y pues, como les digo,
Okay.
más llegue primero Dios, es a trabajar que voy para poder cancelar ese dinero que todavía debo. Y pues este tiempo que he estado aquí encerrado, pues he aprendido muchas cosas y que sé que me van a ayudar muchísimo cuando más adelante.
Gracias. Ok,
Sí,
por favor, en ese tiempo vamos a hacer la decisión nomás. Ahí quédate y escuchar nomás y luego voy a explicar la decisión, ¿ok?
ok, muchísimas gracias.
Gracias. So, what are your thoughts? He's going back to Guatemala to go fishing. He's got family support back there. He's not gonna be here.
I'm gonna support the department's recommendation for parole to his ICE detainer with that 10B fallback. His SOTIPS is low and has a lot of good information there about his risk level.
Mhm.
And I'm comfortable with this release plan, so I'd be looking at that 10B. Was an adult victim, so I'd be looking at no early discharge, and then in the 40A, substance abuse, an SOTP aftercare, and then a 50A.
James?
I too am in agreement with the DOC's recommendation. to parole, to detainer, so with the T and B, parole to the detainer is at D5. And then, the codes, the 10B, 20B, with no early discharge, and then the 40A with, substance abuse and SOTP aftercare, along with, the 50A for, prohibition.
Thank you. Ok, señor, entonces nosotros vamos a mandarte para atrás a Guatemala y si hay chance que te entres para atrás, es mal, para que sabes, porque es contra ley, ¿ok?
Sí,
Pero si regresa para atrás, hay un número aquí que vamos a poner que si regresa para atrás tiene que ir un work release, ¿ok? Y luego te voy a mandar para atrás a Guatemala otra vez, so, para que sepas de eso. So, entonces, que te vayas bien, Dios te bendiga y buena suerte, ¿ok?
muchísimas gracias, les agradezco mucho.
Ok, ahí nos
Gracias,
vemos. Thank you.
gracias, muy amable.
Thank you, Manuel.
You're welcome.
All right, we got Tomas Rubio next.
Yeah.
Anything new with that guy?
No, everything's the same.
Does he speak any English?
He speaks a little bit of English.
Okay. We'll see if he can do the best he can, then I'll jump in. Go and bring him in.
Okay.
You have any questions or did?
These were the two where they did say they need. It's when we get down to
Rubio?
Valenzuela that he can speak Spanish. But these
Okay.
top two,
You sure?
they
Oh.
did say.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. And, okay. Buenos días, ¿cómo estás?
Bien, bien, gracias.
Por favor, dame tu nombre y tu número, por favor.
Tomás Rubio Pérez, 6305107.
Okay. Si hablas inglés, poquito más, o es
Poquito.
mejor español?
Sí, sí.
Okay. So, all right, está bien. Ahorita te voy a explicar cómo va eso, ¿ok?
Sí.
Somos tres miembros de la Junta. Me llamo Jesse Rincón. Aquí conmigo es Meredith Lamberti y también James Moses se llama. ¿Ok? Esta Junta es público y la gente del público pueden escuchar. También gente de las noticias pueden escuchar, pero no pueden participar.
Ok.
Podemos hablar de cosas de confidencial como la historia de tu salud mental, tu médico, tratamientos y más. ¿Entiendes eso y estás bien para seguir?
Sí.
Ok. Así es como va a funcionar esa reunión. Primero te voy a preguntar, describe lo que pasó, el día que pasó el delito. Por favor, sea detallado. Después yo y los otros miembros vamos a tener preguntas para usted. Por favor, contesta lo más bueno que puedes. Cuando terminamos las preguntas, te voy a preguntarte si hay más información o tienes algo preparado para decir los miembros. Después, los otros tres miembros vamos a conversar a la decisión lo que va a pasar. En ese tiempo, por favor, no hablas y yo luego voy a regresar con la decisión contigo, ¿ok?
Ok.
So, vamos a empezar. ¿Por qué estás en el cárcel ahorita? Describe qué pasó ese día.
Yo cometí el abuso sexual en tercer grado con mi víctima menor, mi hija. Después de un tiempo que me divorcié, yo vivía aquí en Estados Unidos y tenía una novia en México y la miraba cada 8 o 9 meses. Y como estaba solo viviendo, cuidaba a mis hijas los fines de semana y con el tiempo fui teniendo esa necesidad de estar con una mujer y al estar solo me fueron entrando los pensamientos insalubres y fue mirando con otros ojos a mi hija y así fue como comenzó y después un día se me hizo fácil tocarla y fue como comenzó el abuso con ella y después lo seguí por un tiempo hasta que llegó el tiempo que
me denunciaron, pero entre ese tiempo eran los fines de semana cuando yo hacía esas cosas que tocaba a mi hija.
Okay.
Cuando
Um,
íbamos a dormir.
okay, that's it. Un momento, por favor. So he basically described pretty much what was said in the summary, what happened. I'm gonna ask him if there's any other victims. ¿Hay otras víctimas o solo tu hija?
Solo mi hija, la otra vivía también conmigo, pero en diferente cuarto. Solo tengo dos hijas.
¿Y cuántos años tenía tu hija en ese tiempo?
10.
10 años. Okay. ¿Y qué aprendiste de tus clases?
¿Dónde?
¿Qué aprendiste de tus clases?
He aprendido, en la clase he aprendido a reconocer mis banderas rojas, mis factores de riesgo y mis distorsiones. He aprendido a que otras personas tienen sentimientos. Yo en ese momento no pensaba en los sentimientos de otra persona, solo pensaba en mi propia gratificación. Nunca pensé en los sentimientos de otra persona, cómo se sentía al yo tocar a esa persona.
¿Qué fue de uno de tus distorsiones?
A pensar tener sexo con un menor, eso fue una de las distorsiones, o pensar que era bueno tener relaciones con una persona de menor edad.
Gracias. So I asked him what he learned in classes, and he actually learned a lot. He understands what his cognitive distortions are now, which he did not understand at that time. He understands the impact to the victim and those around him as well. ¿Y qué piensas cómo estaba afectada tu hija?
Yo pienso que afecté a mi hija emocional, psicológicamente, a daños que le hice que son irreversibles, como hacerla sentir menos, humillada, sentir miedo hacia mí, porque yo era mayor y ella era mi hija y nunca me llegó a ver con esos ojos, y la hice sentir mal y le hice daños irreversibles en su vida de su niñez.
Okay. Asked him how do you think his daughter feels, or what she's gone through, and he said he thinks that psychologically it's affected her and emotionally it's affected her, and he understands what it's actually worth. ¿Qué tipo de trabajo vas a hacer allá? ¿Dónde vas? ¿En México?
Sí,
¿De qué parte?
Querétaro.
Querétaro, cerca de Michoacán, ¿verdad?
Está pegado, sí, pero yo estoy a la orilla de San Luis, pegado a San Luis.
Ok. ¿Qué tipo de trabajo vas a hacer allá?
Voy a ser como comerciante de carne de vaca, de puerco, chivo,
¿Como para cortar carne o qué?
un butcher que le llaman,
Butcher.
donde
Sí. I asked him what kind of work we do in Mexico. He's a butcher, so he'll do that over there. I have no more questions. You guys have any other?
What family support does he have in Mexico?
¿Y qué tipo de soporte tienes allí en México?
tengo 2 hermanas y la novia y un hermano y mi papá.
A girlfriend, 2 sisters. Any other questions?
Does he have any contact with his other daughter or the daughter's mother?
Let's get another one. I didn't
Yeah,
know.
so he had 2
Okay.
girls.
Y lo que ella quiere saber si tú tienes contacto con la otra hija que tienes.
No, no tengo contacto. Eso es lo que hablé un día aquí con las personas de aquí, que no quería que me mandara carta o petición de video la mamá de mi víctima porque no quería problemas. Ya me había mandado anterior, como en diciembre, y me llamaban a la oficina que si esto y lo otro, y yo nunca mandé eso. No puedo controlar lo que viene de afuera, solo lo que va de adentro hacia afuera. O sea, yo entre menos problemas mejor, solo quiero estar bien.
So, entonces no tienes contacto de nadie, de la víctima, de la mamá, nadie.
No.
Okay, so she has had no contact with anybody from the victim, from his other daughter. Because he probably has the 28 or 38.
Well, there's restrictions while he's
Right.
there too, but
Right.
does he have any intention of trying to pursue or anything else?
Lo que ella quiere saber si luego vas a tener o tratar de tener contacto con tus hijos.
Pues eso no es mi prioridad ahorita. Ahorita eso sería después de mucho tiempo. Si ellos me buscan, yo no voy a tratar de buscar para incomodar a nadie. No, lo menos que quiero es incomodar.
Ok,
Solo
gracias.
en mi vida y comenzar algo nuevo.
He said that he's not going to go out his way to go find them. He said if they try to contact him later down the line, tackle that as it comes.
I don't think. Yeah, any other questions?
Ok, señor, no, nosotros no tenemos más preguntas. Ese tiempo que vamos a hacer la decisión, so, ahí siéntate, pero nomás a escuchar, por favor. Cuando hacemos la decisión, te voy a regresar para atrás y explicar la decisión, ¿ok?
Ok, gracias.
Gracias a ti. Ok.
Yeah, I'm gonna support the recommendation for parole to his ICE detainer. Again, looking through this SOTIPS, it's really detailed. It provides quite a bit of information about his risk factors, and he is low on his SOTIPS. So I can support this. Looking at like I said, parole to the ICE detainer with the 10B as that fallback. He does have a minor victim, so we'd be looking at the limited internet, the no early discharge, no contact with minors. And then in the 40A, we will have SOTP aftercare. I actually don't know that I see any substance abuse issues here, but maybe if you could just ask him. I don't see it listed in his needs and interventions, but just because it hasn't been discussed yet.
Señor, ¿tienes problemas en pasado con alcohol o drogas, algo así?
No, nunca. Esta es mi primera vez que cometo un crimen.
Okay, that's no problem with alcohol drugs. Anything else? All right, James?
Yeah. I too am in agreement with DOC's recommendation in this case to parole him to detainer. So PG D5 with the codes mentioned, the 10B, the 20A, the 20B, the 30A, as well as the 40A with the substance abuse and the SOTP aftercare, and the 50A for prohibition.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I too am in agreement with the DOC recommendation of parole to detainer as well, so I'll explain to him. Ok, señor, nosotros vamos a hacer que te vas para atrás con a México con la migra y también ponemos unos codos ahí que si regresas para atrás es mal, porque es contra la ley, ¿ok? Y la otra cosa es, si regresas para atrás, te vas a mandar para atrás un work release y luego otra vez te va a mandar por México, ¿ok? Para que sepas.
Ya.
Entonces, que te pase un buen vida y buena suerte, ¿ok? Es todo.
Gracias.
A ti.
Ujú.
Give me 1 second, Manuel, please. Thank you. Okay, Manuel. The next one I have is Alvarado. So does he speaking any English? Because we have a victim statement that she wants to read, but it's in English. That's my concern.
He doesn't speak any English.
What's that?
He doesn't speak it.
He does not?
English.
Okay. Okay. How do you want to do it?
You might.
1 second. Manuel, we're going to go ahead and read the statement because basically it's for our information as well. So let him know that she's going to read a statement, but he might not understand it, but it's just for us what the victim is saying so we can hear that part, that side of the story, okay?
Okay, you want me to get him?
Yeah, go ahead. And explain that to him as well, would you?
Van a leer un estado de la víctima, de lo que dice, pero va a ser en inglés, es para que ellos sepan lo que la víctima siente o piensa.
Ok,
¿Está bien?
muy buenos días.
Buenos días. ¿Qué es tu nombre y qué es tu número?
Mi nombre es Carlos Icán Alvarado, mi número es 68 12 711.
Ok, gracias. Un momento, por favor. Me llamo Jesse Rincón. Aquí conmigo es Meredith Lamberti, también James Moses. Somos los tres miembros de la junta, ¿ok?
Muy bien.
En esta junta es público y la gente del público pueden escuchar, también gente de las noticias pueden escuchar, pero no pueden participar. Podemos hablar de cosas confidencial como la historia de tu salud mental, tu médico, tratamientos y más. ¿Entiendes eso y estás bien para seguir?
Sí,
Ok. Así como va la función de esta reunión. Primero te voy a preguntar, describe lo que pasó el día que pasó el delito. Por favor, sea detallado. Después yo y los otros miembros vamos a tener preguntas para usted. Por favor, contesta lo más bueno que puedes. Cuando, cuando terminamos las preguntas, te voy a preguntar si hay más información o tienes algo preparado para decir los miembros. Después, los otros tres miembros vamos a conversar a la decisión en que lo va a pasar. En este tiempo, por favor, no hablas y yo llego para atrás y regresar con la decisión para usted, ¿ok?
muy bien.
So, empieza primero con lo que pasó, porque estás en el cárcel ahorita.
Estoy aquí por dos cargos de actos furiosos con dos menores de edad.
¿Qué pasó? ¿Por qué? ¿Qué?
Estoy aquí por actos furiosos con dos menores de edad, felonía clase D.
¿Y qué pasó ese día? Descríbalo.
Pues lo que pasó fue que me abusé de mis víctimas, me las llevé a un garage, les enseñé un video porno y las comencé a sobar y a besar y a pasarle la lengua en su cuerpo.
Okay. ¿Y la víctima es familia de usted?
No, era nieta con la señora que yo vivía.
Nieta.
Ajá.
¿Y cuántos años tenía ella?
Pues no sé los años, más o menos como 9.
Oh, más o menos como 9. Okay.
Ajá, no sé los años de ella, solo que estaba una en el tercero y otra en cuarto año de edad, es lo que sabía.
Un momento, por favor. So he's describing the question. So the kid, he can't remember, maybe around 9 years old, but he's very vague. Just telling you. Okay. So, ¿qué aprendiste de tus clases?
Aprendí a identificar mis factores de riesgo, aprendí a identificar mis banderas rojas.
¿Y qué son tus avisos ahorita?
Perdón,
¿Qué son tus avisos para que no haces este de vuelta?
Pues ahorita, pues en el tratamiento he aprendido a muchas cosas, como a identificar y no hacer lo mismo. No a la hora de eso, pues reflexionar y tener en mente lo que pasó, ¿verdad? Y no volverlo a hacer.
Okay. Más me fía, señor Víctor. ¿Tienes más víctimas o ella es el único?
Una de las únicas,
Sí.
las víctimas adicionales que son las familias, ¿verdad? Involucradas, mi familia, que les pido perdón.
So you realize the victims of the victim and the families and his family, they are considered victims. That's what he understands. ¿Tú tienes familia donde va a mandar?
Sí, tengo familia.
¿De dónde eres?
Yo soy de Escuintla, Guatemala.
¿De qué país?
Escuintla, Guatemala.
Guatemala, ok, ok. Guatemala. ¿Y qué tipo de trabajo vas a hacer ahí?
Este, soy mecánico, electricista y carpintero. Sé muchas cosas
Ok.
de
Pero,
trabajos.
pero lo más es mecánico.
Pues aquí estaba trabajando en galineras, donde, en una granja donde habían 7.800.000 gallinas. Pero en la tarde cuando salía de trabajar ahí, hacía mecánica, soldadura y otros vecinos que me llamaban para ir a hacer electricidad y también hacía trabajo de electricidad.
So, vas a tener trabajo cuando llegues para atrás.
Sí, te va a tener trabajo. Gracias.
He will have work over there.
Probably manual labor.
Yeah. Ahorita en este tiempo, la señora tiene un estado de la víctima, pero es en inglés, ¿ok? Pero eso es para nosotros, ¿ok? Ahorita. So, por favor, dame un momento para escuchar eso.
Muy bien.
Gracias.
I'm going to be sharing the statement on behalf of Liliana Gonzalez. Since the start of 2022, these past years have been a nightmare. Our lives have changed drastically. Our family has gone through a nightmare. We overthink whether our daughter will be able to be her normal self again. I wake up every morning and blame myself for what happened. But now I have realized that our only fault is that we trusted Carlos, a family member, step-grandfather, with our most precious and loved daughter. I tell myself, how can I help my daughter to go through this every single day? My question is she going to be okay and look back at herself and continue with her own life ahead? Is she going to be able to marry and have kids of her own? Will she be able to have a relationship? We hope that this doesn't affect her life in the future. Until now, she has not been herself. I cannot talk to her about certain things because she looks at me and I feel like she's thinking of what happened. I have no idea what she's really thinking though. But what breaks my heart is that she was only a little girl. She didn't know what she was doing. But he did. He knew what he was doing. Him having his kids, it disgusts me that he did that to my little girl. I cannot refrain from how this makes me feel. How can a monster do this to her? This has ruined her life. She was only a child and he took that away from her. We trusted him. We brought him to our family thinking he was a good person. But he took advantage of our family most of all. Trust. She takes therapy, and even though it's still hard for her to talk about it, I asked myself, why? Why us? Why did he ruin her life? Like we never did anything to him, but to bring him into our lives. Even though he has betrayed us, I have many feelings that I could and want to say to him, but still I'm not going to waste my energy on him. I instead take this energy and help my daughter. Hopefully, like the family that we are, we will get out of this strong. Let me say this, our faith, love, and values will never be broken again because he didn't and will not take that from us. We trust in God that he will help us and guide us and protect us from monsters like him. I hope our judge makes justice, and I'm talking about the one up there, our Lord. Dear judicial justice, I plead with you with my heart in pain, and we ask you to please make justice for my daughter and all the girls out there who are victims and the silent ones. We ask you to please have a touch of hearts and to do justice. We have gone through so much. Please make us feel safe again. And from the bottom of my heart, I will thank you for making us feel safe again. I beg you not to let him go. He needs to pay for what he has done to my daughter. He hurt my daughter, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally, and that would never go away. All I ask you to do is please, I beg you to do justice for my daughter, Yuritsa, and our family. Thank you for what you do, and God bless you. Liliana Gonzalez.
Thank you, Heather. Señor, este estado que fue de la mamá de la víctima, ella está enojada, ella está triste, muchas cosas. La cosa que pasó a su hija. ¿Y qué piensas de eso? ¿Qué pensamientos que tienes de eso?
Pues yo pienso que tiene razón, pues, ¿verdad? ¿Qué padre va a querer que lastimen a sus hijos, a sus seres queridos, ¿verdad? Yo le doy la razón y le pido disculpas y perdón, que me perdone y que Dios le dé la sabiduría y que le ayude a salir del trauma que le causé. Le pido mucho a Dios que libere sus corazones y que me perdone.
Okay. I basically kind of summarized what she said, just asking what his thoughts were about that. I'm gonna ask him if he ever thinks that they'll have any problem reoffending. Next question is gonna be John. ¿Qué piensas que en la futura que vas a tener problema que eso pasa otra vez con otra persona?
Le pido a Dios que no. Le pido a Dios, yo sé que a la hora de eso sé ya identificar mis problemas y ya no volverá a pasar.
Yo entiendo que estás diciendo que te pides Dios, pero en tu mente estás fuerte, tienes la fuerza para no hacer eso de vuelta.
Tengo la fuerza y la capacidad de no hacerlo de vuelta.
Okay, es que quiero saber. So I asked him, I said, do you think that'll ever happen again? He said, well, I pray to God that it doesn't. So I just asked him, I said, do you think you're strong enough by yourself that you don't think you're going to do that again? He said, he thinks he's strong enough not to let that happen again.
What is, who's in his family that he's going back to, and who does he plan to live with, and are there children around?
Cuando vas para atrás, ¿con quién va a vivir y qué familia tienes ahí? ¿Hay niños ahí donde vas a vivir?
No, ya mis hijos están grandes.
Por favor, dime otra vez.
Mis hijos están grandes
Okay. Lo que tienes allá en
en Guatemala.
Guatemala, ¿están grandes? ¿Cuántos años tienen?
Uno tiene 28 y el otro 24.
Pero hay nietos o otros hijos que están ahí.
No,
He said that there's going to be no kids around him, and his kids that he has are 28 years old, from that age.
Do his kids know that he's in prison now or what he did?
¿Tus hijos saben que estás en el cárcel ahorita?
sí, ellos saben, mi familia saben de que estoy, mis hermanos, mis hijos y los
¿Y
demás saben.
ellos saben de qué es la crima, todo?
Sí,
They know
ellos
the crime well, yeah. Any other question? Ok, señor, ese tiempo, si quieres nosotros saber más información, te puedes decir algo, si quieres.
yo pues lo que les pienso decir es que les pido a mis víctimas que me perdonen, a sus padres, a mis víctimas adicionales que están alrededor de este caso. Les pido de corazón que Dios les ayude a superar el trauma que les causé y que tengan muchas bendiciones. Gracias.
Gracias a ti. His last statement was he just hopes that he can be forgiven by the victim, and then that's just what he said. Ok, señor, ese tiempo que vamos a hacer la decisión, por favor, nomás escuchar en este tiempo. Cuando hacemos la decisión, yo te voy a regresar para atrás y dile qué pasó, ¿ok?
Muy bien, gracias.
Gracias a ti.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and support this recommendation for parole to his ICE detainer. We have a relatively short, adjusted sentence here, and by the time he gets that settled, he'll be pretty close to his, TDD before his special sentence would go into effect anyway.
Yeah.
So as far as coding, I'd be looking at that 10B fallback And then he does have a minor victim, so limited internet, no early discharge, no contact with minors. In the 40A, I'd be looking at the SLTP aftercare and substance abuse. I do see that as a need, an intervention here. And then the 50A. Yep.
You said substance abuse, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Thank you. All right, James.
yes. I too am in agreement with DOC's recommendation to parole to ICE detainer. So PG, D5, the 10B, as my colleague said, the fallback, the 20A for the internet, the 20B, no early discharge, the 30A for no contact or indirect contact with minors, the 40A with both substance abuse and SOTP aftercare, and the 50A.
Okay, thank you. Ok, señor. Lo que va a pasar es nosotros vamos a mandarte para atrás, ¿ok? Guatemala. Tú sabes que si regresa para atrás es contra ley.
Sí,
Si entras para atrás, si la policía te agarra, te va a mandar para atrás y primero te vas a un work release y luego para atrás a Guatemala. So, para que sepas de eso. ¿Tienes preguntas para nosotros?
no, solo eso, pues se los agradezco y gracias por
Ok,
vimos muchas cosas, ¿verdad? Y gracias a ustedes se lo agradezco por mi tiempo y perdónenme también porque ustedes están involucrados en mi causa esta, ¿verdad? No es una buena causa que hice, pero les pido perdón a ustedes también. Gracias.
muchísimas gracias a usted y que te vayas bien, ok?
Bien, gracias.
So, thank you for your time. Prayer. We did it, Manuel. We did it, huh?
Yeah, we did it.
I think that's it for you today. I appreciate your time.
I still got
One more.
Oh, okay.
Venezuela. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say,
Venezuela,
We got one more?
yes, but that's after.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then
Oh,
he
okay, my
has
bad.
one more.
We got one more. Brandon, do you have Brandon well? No, you don't.
No.
yeah, I got Bruning also.
Oh, you're covering burning?
Okay.
Yeah.
Meredith is gonna take this one. Go ahead.
Say what?
I said Meredith is gonna take this one for Bruni.
Okay, I'm gonna go get them.
Okay, we're gonna take a quick bathroom break while you do that, or before you bring him in, if that's all right.
Sounds good.
Okay, we're back, we're ready. So it looks like, so we have Bruning. Any updates or anything that we should know about him that's not in the recommendation?
Not that I'm aware, no.
We are ready to bring him in now. We don't have any other questions. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you please state your name and your ID number for me?
Yes, it's Michael Bruning. My ID number is 6900902.
Thank you, Mr. Bruning. I'm Meredith Lamberti, and here with me are Jesse Rincon and James Moses. We're the three-member panel who are going to be talking to you this morning. I know you've had an interview in the past. Do you want me to go over what to expect today, or are you ready to just jump in?
I'm ready to jump in.
Okay. And just a reminder that we might talk about some confidential information this morning. Are you still okay with that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So I was on your last interview, but James and Jesse were not. So I'm going to have you start by giving us, for their benefit, just a brief but detailed explanation of the crime that you committed that led to you being in prison.
Okay. In July of 2017, after watching a movie late at night, the rest of my family was sleeping. And I happened to look over, and my daughter, which is my victim, was laying on the couch, and she was wearing short shorts, and I could see that her buttocks was showing through short shorts. And at that very moment, I stopped seeing her as my daughter, but as something I could use sexually gratify myself with. So I had the thought to masturbate to the side of seeing her buttocks through her shorts. So I got down where I could have a good position to see it and masturbate with. And then I took off my shorts. I still had my boxers on. And then I noticed that I had a camera up there, so I got the idea to throw a shirt over the camera. And then I went back to the position. I masturbated to the side of it, and then when I was done, I took off the shirt and cleaned myself up, and that was in July 2017, I believe it was. Yeah.
Thank you. We do have some victim statements today, so I'm going to have you sit back and listen, and I'm going to have our victim liaison take over.
So first, I'm going to share a statement on behalf of Amanda Bruning. And just so that I know that we have another statement, and so Mariah, you will be next. But I'm going to go ahead and share Amanda's statement first. When the attorneys came to me with the plea deal, I was told they were going to offer Mike a mandatory of 9 years and that my child would not have to testify against him. I thought if we agreed to that, we would get 9 years of healing, growing, and the temporary feeling of being safe. Him being considered for parole takes away from those 9 years of comfort and takes away from the justice my daughter deserves. If he is released, how are you going to guarantee the safety of my family and myself? This is a person who has made so many threats towards me. I have been told a restraining order is just a piece of paper that to end that marriage would involve one of us in a body bag, and it wasn't going to be him. He has told me that he would take my children and disappear to Winnebago, where I wouldn't be able to get them back. By letting him leave his sentence early to be on parole takes away the small amount of time that we get to feel safe. Once he is out there, there will be no comfort for us. There will be no feeling safe. I will have to constantly look over our shoulders, wondering when he is going to try and hurt one of us. My children and I have developed anxiety. I am struggling with my PTSD and nightmares from being married to him. We are family who is still healing from the damage that he has brought upon us. I not only fear for the safety of my family, but also fear for the safety of the public. He will prey on someone else. He is going to offend again. He is going to hurt someone again. My daughter was not his first victim, and most likely will not be his last victim either. Natasha, Jessica, Becca, Mariah, Jaden, Isaac, Ayana, and myself are just a few of the people he preyed on, and I am sure if someone has to dig deeper into his past, there will be more. We all, at one point in time, have been abused by him emotionally, physically, mentally, and sexually. When you're making your decision on him, just think to yourself, are you able to live with the guilt if he gets out early and kills someone? Are you going to be able to live with the guilt when he rapes again? 1 in 4 women experience intimate partner violence. Roughly 3 women a day lose their lives to it. Domestic violence expert Jacqueline Campbell determined being strangled by a partner even one time increases a victim's risk of homicide by that perpetrator by over 600%. 600%. I'd like to share just a few of the experiences Mike and I had together to remind us all of why he should stay here. These are bullet points, so bear with me. He strangled me to the point of blackout. He threw me on the floor and stomped on my chest. I delivered my oldest son after Mike induced my labor via pushing me onto my stomach and a violent rape. I endured a concussion during my last pregnancy from being hit with a bottle. Did you know that the leading cause of death for pregnant women is homicide from an intimate partner? He once chased me with a hatchet. I had to hide in my car to get away. I slept there that night. He used to tell me about how he would kill his friend and make it look like an accident. He told me he'd kill me all the time. If anyone leaves this marriage, it'll be in a body bag and it won't be me, he would say. The fact that we are standing here today baffles me. The years spent being tortured by this man will haunt my kids and myself for the rest of our lives. My kids have never known peace, nightmares, anxiety, PTSD, constant fear of their own father, a person who should protect them. Mental, emotional, and physical abuse and violent sexual assaults are not what any child deserves. 1,800. I don't have exact dates, so I'll be generous here. 1,800 is the number of days this court would rob my family if you paroled this man. 5 years. When I was told the plea deal would be the best offer, I was guaranteed 9 years of peace, of safety, of healing. But as I stand here for the second time, I'm wondering how anyone could steal over 1,000 days of my kids getting off the bus and not thinking about if their dad is going to kidnap them. Over 1,000 days of not looking over our shoulders or being afraid to leave home or being in our home for that matter. 1,000 days of my daughter not having to think about if her first year away at college will be interrupted by another brutal assault. When you make this decision, I pray to God that you think of just how many days 1,000 is and what that means for us and all of the victims. We weren't the first, we won't be as last. Please consider what 1,000 days of guilty conscience would feel like when Mike rapes another girl or inevitably kills one of us. Thank you. All right, so now I'm going to, Lindsay, ask you to accept being promoted to a panelist. Once you've accepted that, you can leave the camera off or you can turn it on, whatever Mariah feels most comfortable with. And go ahead and unmute, please. And then Mariah can start to share when she is ready.
Thank you. My name is Mariah Bruning.
Hi, Mariah. You go ahead and share when you're ready. And just keep your statement directed at the board, please.
Can she have just one moment? I'm sorry.
Absolutely. Take your time. And just know I'm here if you need any assistance, okay?
Thank you so much. My name is Mariah Bruning, Mike's biological daughter, and I'd like to first start off by thanking you for listening to or reading my statement. Sitting down to write a second statement against Michael is gut-wrenching, as if writing the first wasn't excruciating enough. I would have prioritized my mental health and focused on college and let the board decide Mike's outcome themselves if it weren't for how fearful I was of Mike being released. Mike has affected me deeply, and no matter how much time passes or how much coping I do, his actions will forever be lasting on me. I was forced to witness things that some people go a whole lifetime without seeing, and forced to be victim to actions no daughter should ever receive from her father. Being forced to grow up and mature so quickly, I felt as if I was an adult in a child's body for far too many years, having to sacrifice my childhood to Michael. I can say that I've come a long way in my healing process, as I am a completely different person than who I was when Michael was initially arrested. This was not at all an easy process, though, struggling with my mental health for so long, as the PTSD was so extreme. I was in and out of the hospital, becoming a problem child for my mother in my early teenage years. I had no hope for myself, believing that because of what I went through, I was bound to fail. I gave up on all of my academics, which was weird because growing up I was always top of my class, a straight A student. There was a long stretch of time where I absolutely hated my appearance, wanting to change every little bit about myself because all I could see were his features whenever I looked in the mirror. It took a few years for me to get myself back into the right state of mind, going through therapy and being homeschooled for a short while. I started to accept the fact that Mike could not dictate my future and I needed to become the daughter he wished he had raised. I worked hard to get to where I'm at right now. I still find myself slipping up and letting all the trauma overcome me again. Hearing news of a possible early release once again put me right back where I started. The fear for me and my family's safety returns, right along with the nightmares and constant crying. Mike's actions altered my sense of safety and trust, specifically towards men. I do not believe there will ever be a point in my life where I don't question a man's intentions, because my own father conditioned me to be fearful of all men. Mike was living proof that you really don't know who somebody is behind closed doors. To anybody else, he was an outstanding father, spending days at the lake, teaching his kids how to fish, trips to the zoo every other weekend, building us a tire swing, a treehouse, a trampoline, the list goes on. I see other girls with their dad, and I mourn what could have been. On the good days, he truly was a good dad. He taught me how to skateboard, how to braid, surprisingly, how to play football, which almost led to me joining the team, and so much more. I looked up to him. He also taught me to be overly sensitive to animal abuse because of all the animals I witnessed the death of, all to the hands of him. He taught me to recognize every scent of Swisher Sweets because of how often I'd sit right in front of him as he meticulously rolled up his morning joint, tossing the Swisher wrapper behind the couch every time. He taught me to never talk back, or else I could expect something thrown at me or a hand at the root of my hair, his belt in the other being dragged to the next room. He taught me to be afraid of confrontation because of what would happen to me if I ever tried standing my ground or sticking up for my mother or siblings. He taught me to be the people pleaser I am today, always afraid to upset someone because I grew up with an angry man who I had to constantly walk on eggshells around. He taught me that no matter how good and genuine a person may seem, a sheep in wolf's clothing is a real thing. Mike taught me to be afraid of the touch of others, fearful of a hand slipping where it shouldn't, because if your own father can do that to you, anyone can. Although it is not my choice, I believe Michael should be held to a sentence, one that would quadruple in length if he was held accountable for all of his actions, not just molesting his daughter. I wrote a very intense letter that was read at Michael's last hearing, and that was possibly the first time I felt victim's guilt in full effect. In that moment, hearing my letter that did nothing but speak terribly of Michael be read aloud, I felt nothing but regret. I regret every word I wrote in that moment, because although Michael stole a lot from me, he didn't steal my empathy. Michael is my biggest fear and possibly the darkest, most inhumane person I know, and yet for a brief moment I'd wished he could be free to start a new life. Hearing him be denied early release last year should have been the biggest sigh of relief, but all I could feel in the moment was regret and so much guilt, feelings that took months to get over. I believe me returning to do this all over again proves just how scared I am of Michael being free, because although I believe everybody deserves a second chance, Michael first deserves to receive his full punishment. Michael always promised he would kill us all if we were to ever leave, but I believe us being the reason he is incarcerated today is 1,000 times worse. I have no doubt that Michael will eventually spiral out, as I've seen it countless times living in the same household as him. He will appear to be readjusting back into society with ease and may even appear to be a changed person. But I know Michael, and I know his battle with his mental illness. He will eventually spiral out, and I am fearful that me and my family will fall victim. Currently, I am in my first semester of college. It has already proven hard enough to make this adjustment, now living on my own, far from home. I am trying to maintain the high grades I managed to keep my entire high school career, but with news of the hearing came loads of stress and worry. I am currently writing this letter when instead I am supposed to be studying for my midterms and finishing my papers. I do not believe I can be on my own with the knowledge of Michael walking free. The possibility of him finding me or my family at any given time. I beg that Michael is made to finish his sentence so I can further adjust into life on my own, being able to adjust into college. I see myself thriving in college where I plan to major in criminal justice and social work, one day being the lifeline childhood me prayed for. I urge you to consider the lasting impact of his actions on my life and the state of fear I will never be able to escape. I am hopeful that I will have the opportunity to adjust to life on my own with knowledge of Michael being held behind bars to further finish his sentence. I am so, I am prepared the best I can be for when he is released, but only because that release isn't supposed to be until 2026, when I'll be 20 years old. When deciding whether Michael will have a chance at walking free early, please not only consider the impact on me and my family, but also the general public as well, as we don't know who could be sitting here reliving what he put them through next. Thank you for considering my letter.
Thank you, Mariah, for that statement.
Thank you both for being here again and for those statements that you provided to us. We really do appreciate it. Can't understate, enough how difficult we know it is for you guys to put yourselves through that again. So thank you for that participation.
I'm going to go ahead and put you back as an attendee, and you guys can continue to listen to the remainder of the interview.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Bruning, after hearing those statements, is there anything that you'd like for the board to know, keeping your comments, directed to us?
Yeah, directed to you guys. I believe that both my daughter and my wife, or my ex-wife, they both deserve to live happy lives and everything. And I'm glad that she was able to do school and all that stuff. And what I did to her was terrible. I know it's long lasting and it's gonna be with her forever, or could be with her forever. And she's gonna maybe struggle with school, work, or even relationships, and it's all my fault. So whatever you guys decide, I'm ready for.
I think, one thing that I took from both of their statements is that there's just a lot of fear. There's a lot of things they can't predict when you do get released. Yeah. And I think that's pretty fair. Unpredictable, and they don't know. So is there anything that you'd like to address in that space about, their fear of you or contact from you?
Yes, as I don't know if I know, but as far as you guys know, I'll still be on parole for the next, I don't know, lifetime parole. So, and then I'll be at a halfway house for the next probably year till I can get on my feet, and then I'll still be under supervised parole. And I've been taking the medicines for anger and anxiety like I'm supposed to. I've been rehabilitated while I was in here. I've been teaching other people treatment, and so I've pretty much been through the treatment like at least 15 times. And I'm ready to use those tools that I learned in treatment to go out there and be a law-abiding citizen. I believe that the person I was back then is not the person I am sitting here today in front of you.
So I have a couple of follow-up questions from that. So first is, are you on medication right now?
Yes, ma'am. I remember talking to you about it last time, and I got off 6 months prior to when we visited because I was afraid of cost. But I did get back on them just to take them because you said cost wasn't a problem because they have programs up there. So I am on antidepressants and anxiety medicine that I've been taking and working with my therapist.
Okay, that's good to know. Second question is, so the work release that you'll start at is in Council Bluffs. Yes, and yeah, you will be there for a while as you figure out housing and everything since you'll have restrictions. But long term, where do you want to end up living? What area?
I'm thinking about moving away from the state, start a new life somewhere, and or Winnebago back to my tribe so I can help my people and stuff. But I'm not planning on returning to Omaha or anywhere close to this area. I believe that's fair for other people to see me far away.
And then I think my last follow-up question before I'll let my colleagues ask questions. So you've worked helping as a mentor with special needs SOTP, right? How many sessions of SOTP do you think you've sat in total?
About nine sessions, which they last about 3 months to 8 months. So I've been through many classes. I've helped over 200 people with their disclosures and treatment programming and helping them pass. So the only reason I got a new job is so I could help get it adequated to getting a real job situation. So I got a new job at IPI, and you pretty much, it's kind of like real work out there.
That'd be, so 9 sessions with special needs, and then that's in addition to the one you did as your own treatment program, right?
Yes.
So I'm gonna let Jesse and James ask you some questions, since I was on your last interview. So let's start with James. Do you have any questions?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Mr. Bruning, I had a chance to hear what you said in terms of, and I quote, "You're better today than you were before the incident took place." Give me an understanding of what you meant by that statement.
Okay. After going through treatment, I've learned tools and experience that I can use to help better myself, such as SMART goals, which the acronym stands for specific, measurable, achievable, and realistic. And I learned that you got to use those tools in every goal that you set ahead of yourself. So making sure that I have goals in my life, and the rehabilitation here, that I've been staying out of trouble. I've been doing what I was supposed to. I haven't had a major report in, I think, 4 years or something, or a report in over a year. And I've been taking my medications. I haven't had any outbursts or anger issues since, I think, a year after I got here, working with my therapist and everything, and making sure I'm on the right track with doing what I'm supposed to medication-wise and health-wise and mental health-wise. And I just think that this time away that I've been in here, I've been able to get my life back on track with thinking about what was done and what I need to do to be a law-abiding citizen.
And I hear that, and I hear what you share with my colleague about the 9 sessions, 3 to 5 months in per session, and sharing with over 200 plus individuals of your situation. But I'm still stuck on what kind of preparedness did you encounter when I hear you from basically what you stated on how the incident occurred, and you was watching TV late, and then watching TV late, you start to depict certain things in your mindset that enticed or encouraged or did something to your mindset that led to your visual aspect of your daughter and performing the acts that took place. I'm still trying to understand what insight have you gained from that action that you chose to do at that period of time?
Okay. Well, in treatment, I learned about crime schemas and chain of event, and I believe that from things that happened when I was younger, it started that crime chain of event, and so from when my mother died when I was very young, or let's go back even more, when I was in my mother's carrying, she had to give me up for adoption. That started my abandonment issues. And then when my birth mom died, because me and my birth mom were very, very close, when she died at 13, I felt really bad abandonment, and I pretty much gave up on life or being any kind of like good at that time. And that started a whole bunch of schemas for me with why should I be good if they're just gonna think I'm bad, or cops are bad, or all those different thinking errors and stuff. So from that to being loneliness, abandonment, to the impulsivity, the impulsivity of it. So all those are red flags now. And as seeing those as red flags, if I see any kind of crime schema come up, or the chain of events of that, or any kind of red flags that I have, which would be anger, impulsivity, loneliness, boredom, any of those that come up, I now know to reach out for help as soon as possible, work with my therapist, or any kind of support group that I have, such as friends or family, church, or even my parole officer if I have to. So I realized the effects that started that domino effect, and now I'm ready. I feel as though I'm ready and prepared to discourse that chain of events, if I said that right.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Bruning. I'm gonna conclude my question, and thanks.
Thank you.
Jesse, any questions?
Yeah, yeah. Good morning, Mr. Bruno. I'm Jesse. Nice to meet you.
Hello.
So during the victim impact statement, when Amanda was reading, I was watching you in particular, and you were shaking your head no a couple times as though there was some disagreement to what some of the things she was saying. So can you explain that, just so I'm not putting words into your mouth?
Yeah, I was wondering about that too. I don't know if they're allowed to say things that aren't true, but there's some things in there that I 100% disagree with what she said on
Like what?
happened. I don't ever recall choking her to a point of passing out. I haven't. I don't remember ever stomping on her chest or anything like that. I haven't talked about killing her or the family, and I didn't say if she ever leave me, I would kill her or the family. I don't remember saying any of that about killing or anything.
And the next question I was going to ask you, were you under the influence on that day? Were you under the influence on that day? Nothing? No alcohol? No, I can't hear you.
Sorry, of marijuana, maybe, but not alcohol or anything like that.
Okay.
So that did not affect my state of remembrance or anything like that.
And one of the things I was seeing you shaking your head to was when she mentioned the rape.
Oh yes, she said the victim said that she said that she miscarried or something and had our son early due to a violent rape. I 100% disagree with that too, because that didn't happen.
All right. Thank you. Is there any other victims in your life?
Yes, when I was younger, when I was in a adopted family, there was stuff going on between my family members and I. When I was 10 years old, 11 years old, it was very young, but my older siblings were having sex or something. I walked in on them and I was curious on what they were doing. And then they kind of taught me on what they were doing. And then they introduced me to my other sister that was kind of involved in it. And then I started doing what they were doing with my sister, and my brother and stuff were showing them. So there was some stuff back then when I was 10 or 11 when it was going on. So I would consider my adopted sister, Shelly Bruning, as a victim back then at that time, yes.
Thank you for disclosing that. What would you say some of your cognitive distortions are?
Some of my cognitive distortions are, were that the police are bad, another one is that since I'm a bad seed, I might as well just be a bad seed. Another one would be stealing money to make money is okay because the people that have the money are insured, stuff like that.
How about sexually?
Sexually, as far as sexually, I had a cognitive disorder of that. Since she's married to me, she should have to have sex with me. Another one would be she's into me, so she must want to have sex, something like that.
Okay. I appreciate you answering that. I have no more questions for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Right. So hearing you say, so one of your distortions being, she's married to me, so she should have sex with me. Do you think there's a possibility in that space where there was coercion and Amanda felt like she was being raped or was raped, and maybe you did not see that in that way at the time? Do you see where I'm trying to pull those two things together?
Actually write that in my disclosure that since I discovered that in my lifetime is that since she's married to me, I feel that it's a chore more than thing. So yes, I see that if she didn't want to have sex, I could close her and be like, come on, so yeah, that would result as her being a victim too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because that popped out to me with her
Yeah.
statement and with the question that Jesse asked you. So do you see what I'm saying about her being a victim too?
Imagining, when she said violent rape, I just imagined, but she's 100% right when it comes to that can also be considered sexual assault because coercing her into wanting to have sex just because she's my wife also can make her a victim. So I'm sorry for that. I shouldn't say.
No, I appreciate you discussing that. Have you, is that maybe one of your distortions because there wasn't violence, it wasn't assault?
That not with my daughter victim, but with Jessica, or sorry, with Amanda victim, yes, with my ex-wife. It would have been, well, it wasn't violent, coercing, so it can't, she would want it or something like that. So I would consider that a distortion.
I think those might be some good topics for you to pursue with your SOTP aftercare.
Okay.
Yeah. I think those were the only follow-up questions that I had for you. You have any? All right, so now, Mr. Bruning, is your time to tell us anything else that you'd like for us to know before we go into our deliberation.
Okay. I would like you to know that I have been working very hard in here while I've been in here to try to be a better person. I've taken all the programs that you can possibly take in here. I've stayed out of trouble, and I've took my medications and took care of my mental health while I was in here. I haven't had any outbursts or anger or fights or anything like that since being incarcerated. All with, and I've helped work on treatment with a lot of students to help them pass and everything. And I want to get out to prove people that I can be a law-abiding citizen and that I have changed. So I hope you consider what I've said here today. Thank you.
Thank you. So now sit back, listen. We'll go into our deliberation. I can start. So our recommendation is parole with a 10B to the Council Bluffs work release. I was on the last interview with Mr. Bruning. I heard the statements then, and I heard them now and remembered them and have thought often about Mariah's statement. And it was, just as impactful today. Some of the concerns that we had from our last interview, particularly with the medication, I feel like we have addressed. I guess I'll start with, I am going to support this recommendation today. And I'll give some of the reasons why, the statements were very difficult for them to make, very impactful. I appreciate them quite a lot. I'm very sorry for what that family has had to go through. The things, though, that we have to look at when we're considering a release, our risk levels to reoffend, treatment, medication, where he's going to be living. And I think that his plan, if you're looking at holistically, is a good plan. I did appreciate how willing he was, when I kind of challenged him on what Jesse asked him about, to acknowledge that maybe he did have some of those distortions. And, I think part of that is because if you really think about it, he's gone through SOTP 10 times and, helped others to get through that program. So it's not just learning it, it's, learning it enough to teach it. And transitioning him out then into the aftercare is what protects, himself from reoffending and protects the community as well. I think that he's done everything that we have asked of him. He went back on his medication. I can certainly understand, his concerns about the price that he had before that we talked about. Going out on that 10B status to Council Bluffs will help him with those resources. His SOTIPS is low, and on top of that, it's on the low end of low risk with a score of 2. So I'm going to support this. It would be at this time a parole with a 10B. He'd have the no early discharge because it was a minor. We'd start with the internet restriction, no contact with minors. And the 40A, there's SOTP aftercare. It doesn't sound like substances were a huge issue, but there was marijuana, I think some concerns about perhaps self-medicating. So I would start with a substance abuse evaluation, and then I would add mental health medication compliance to continue to make sure that he's, working with a professional for those medications. And then I think starting with a 50A is a good idea. And that can be amended by the district as needed.
You could, listening to the victim and victim statement, there was a lot to compile, and just feel for the victim as well as the victim statement that has affected life. But when looking at what Mr. Bruning has accomplished, with hearing how he commented on, redirect and answering my colleagues' questions, as well as showing, some contrition, completing SOTP 10 plus times, being engaged and actively trying to be better to date than he was at, pretty much the last interview, where at one concern, he wasn't taking the medication, but see the importance and the relevance of why taking the medication is impactful and helps towards his growth as he navigates through this, navigates through obstacles that can help better him throughout life. I'm in agreement with what my colleague just stated. Therefore, I too am in agreement with DOC's recommendation. PG, I believe D3 with the 10B, the 20A for the minor limited action. The 20B, well, there's no need for the 20B because of the length of the sentence. The 30A, the 40A with substance abuse, SOTP aftercare, mental health, medication compliance, I did hear some concerns of wondering what would take place with the victim, and I know Mr. Bruning said that he would not have any engagement or involvement, so I just wanted to kind of throw out if the GPS is a concern or if that is a consideration to this. If not, that's okay. And then the 50A for prohibition.
Believe in Council Bluffs that all sex offenders start with GPS, but I can add it on there just to make sure.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so I'm looking at the time constraint. First of all, I want to thank Amanda and Mariah for their statement. Very impactful. But I'm looking at the time constraint. Years, what we have left. He does have lifetime parole. He will be under supervision. We do at some point have to make a transition, so I'm going to agree with the department decision. As tough as it is for me to make that decision, but I'm going to go with the release to work release, to parole, PGD3 with a 10B, 20B, 30A, 40A, SOTB aftercare, mental health, med compliance, and 50A.
All right, so Mr. Bruning, you heard our discussion and we are going to grant your parole today. I'm going to briefly go over all of those codes and the things that we were talking about so you understand. So when you go out on parole, you'll have standard terms of parole that everyone has. And then what we do is we place additional special conditions that are tailored to your offense and concerns that we have. So you'll be going out on parole status with a 10B, which means you'll start at the Council Bluffs work release. Okay. To begin with, you will have a 20A, which is limited internet usage, and everyone who starts SOTP aftercare has that to begin with. The 20B is no early discharge, so you'll stay on parole until your TDD on this in 2026, and then that's when your special sentence will go into effect. Then the 30A is no contact with any minor children unless it's approved by your PO. 40A are treatment codes or things that we'd like you to engage in the community. The first is GPS. I think you would have started with that anyway, but just to alleviate some concerns with the victim, I think that's appropriate to engage in SOTP aftercare in the community, to get a substance abuse evaluation to see where you're at with that, and then to continue to address your mental health and your medications. It doesn't mean that you're stuck with the medications that you're on, but just if you're going to make any changes that you work with a professional to do that.
Okay.
And then when you first start out, you'll also have a prohibition on drinking alcohol or being places where alcohol is a primary activity. So like liquor stores, bars that don't sell food. Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions for me about what any of those things mean?
No.
All right. Well, thank you for your time today.
Thank you, guys.
Good luck, Mr. Bruning.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Manuel, we have Mr. Valenzuela next.
Yeah.
He speaks English?
Yes.
Okay, good. Is there anything that's changed from the evaluation?
No.
Okay, if you guys have any questions?
No.
All right, you can go and bring him in.
Okay.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, how are you today?
Nervous.
You'll be okay. We'll get you through this, okay?
Thank you.
Give me your name and your state number, please.
My name is Fred Valenzuela, 687-0189.
Okay. So this interview, I'm going to explain the process to you, okay? This interview is considered to be in a public forum, meaning that the public media can listen in, but they cannot participate. We can possibly discuss confidential information such as your mental health, substance abuse, or your medical history. Do you understand this, and are you willing to proceed?
Yes.
Okay. So how this works is I'll start out by asking you to describe the crime in detail. What was going on in your life at that time? What brought you to prison? After that, my colleagues and myself might have a few questions for you to answer. After we complete our questioning, I'll ask you if you have anything for the board that you would like us to know or that you prepared. Once you've done that, then we'll go into what's called deliberation, meaning we're going to make a decision. At that time, you're not to participate, just listen at that time. Once we make a decision, I'll come back to you and explain the decision, okay?
Yes.
All right, so I want you, to the best of your ability, to describe what brought you to prison, what was going on in your life, what happened.
Okay. What brought me to prison is a forced sexual abuse crime on the 3rd degree. It was from a trip planned to Iowa, from Illinois to Iowa. It was a kayaking trip. It was a friend of my girlfriend's. We had a room set up for the 3 of us. Went along with other co-workers. There was a lot of partying, drinking that we did that night. We went out when we got back from our event out. We came back to the hotel room, and I took full advantage of an unconscious victim. I sexually abused her, and I'm truly incredibly sorry for all the emotional, physical, mental damage that I've caused to her family, her friends.
Okay. At what point did you realize that you messed up?
I messed up from the beginning, the start of it, the touching her without consent. Yeah, everything without just imagining that that's what she wanted.
So what did you learn from SOTP?
I've learned a great deal. I've learned my cognitive distortions, my schemas. For example, I know that all that isolation prior to my crime, I had knee surgery, so I was stuck in the house for 6 months. Then COVID hit. Further isolate, I did a lot of drinking. I know that being alone, isolated, watching pornographic material, all distortions caused me to have wrong thoughts, staying away from the church. I couldn't go to church, so that also got me off track.
Was there ever any other incidents similar to the one that happened that you were never convicted of?
No, no.
This was isolated?
Isolated event. I've been pretty much a family man, member of the community. I volunteer. I do a lot of stuff with my family all the time.
Was there any drugs was you ever hooked on pills because of the knee surgery or anything like that?
No, no. As a matter of fact, I very much anti medicine like that. I believe that you need the pain for the body to heal.
Okay. Do you have any kind of mental health diagnosis?
I do not. I do not.
All right. Thank you for answering the question I did have. I'm going to pass to my colleagues at this time. James?
Yeah, thank you. How you doing, Mr. Valenzuela?
Extremely nervous.
Okay. One question I have, and it's evolves around values.
Yes,
List me 3 or more values that you have today that you didn't have prior to your your incarceration?
Well, I've learned more not to be so selfish, for one, to consider other people's thoughts, and I know now, reflecting on life, that, getting off track from my community, my church, is probably the worst thing I could have done, because that would have kept me from the drinking and pornography, which would have stopped, me having these thoughts, that immoral thoughts.
Okay. And so I heard church, spirituality, I heard community, in terms of getting away from some of the practices that kind of basically gave you the foundation. What values, though, if you had to put it into words, what values do you have today that you didn't have prior to being incarcerated?
Well, again, not so selfish, not to be selfish, be mindful of others, which is along with the not selfish. I'm stuck for words. Taking care of more of other people I know helps me get out of my whatever problems I'm having, helping others.
So if we say communities, what kind of stewardships?
Well, I thought about I could help people see their red flags, their risk factors, tell them my story of how something like, what I was doing could lead to something bad. So I know, how to stop before getting to thinking, having wrong thoughts and going down that line again. So I could help others, telling my story and what I've learned in treatment, and how, a simple party and get out of hand.
Okay. When you were being transparent with us and you were sharing about, what you did individually that violated the individual victim that took place, one thing came to mind in terms of value. It seemed like you were being humble. So a little bit of humility, but you're being selfless in sharing with us what that partially, being transparent, what that reflected to us. Education could be, part reading of information to better yourself, hobbies, things that you would like to do maybe into your freer spare time, loyalty, who you establish loyalty, honesty, keeping people informed of what your practices are looking to be going forward, as opposed to what, intertwined or gotten in the way of that decision. So those were some examples of things that I was more so looking for from you in sharing with some of the information that maybe you gathered in SOTP and any of the other educational practices you've had since being incarcerated. Does that make sense?
I completely agree with you. I'm just so extremely nervous. I'm drawing mental blocks. But
no worries. But
yes.
that was initially, it went into more, but that's why I was only looking at one question. So I conclude my questioning going forward.
Thanks, James. Mary?
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions for you. So it looks like your parole plan is to your mom's house in Illinois. Is that correct?
Yes.
You talk to us a little bit about your relationship with your mom and any other family support that you have.
Okay, my mother is my rock. She supports me on always been a great mom. Gave me great values. I completely embarrassed her with all of this, but I will be living with her. My sister lives about 10 minutes away. Her husband, the kids. My brother's maybe 20 minutes away. My aunt's probably another 20, 25 minutes away, her, my cousins. And then I have my children, my kids, they're grown. My son's electrical engineer in Texas, and then my daughter is in Wisconsin. Both fully supportive. I have my church community that I'll still continue to attend. They've been very supportive. My friends, but mainly I'll be residing with my mom. And then I'm hoping to, my brother wants to help me get my license to be a realtor. And I would also like to finish my college degree. I have 50 credit hours now. I also have a Class A CDL license that I can fall back on. My aunt, of course, she wants me to, follow in her path. She tells me all these 2-year careers I can get. Doing scanning, a little bit of nursing assistant, and so there's a lot of possibilities and decisions that I could make. Me, mainly, I think finishing school, now that I have the opportunity to do so, would be great for me. I also have, I had 23 years at my last career, and I am going to have my pension coming in from that. So I will also have income coming in other than whatever employment I find.
Okay. You said you wanted to finish school if you had the chance. I see you have quite a few hours done of college credits. What are you working toward?
Well, I was in criminal justice, but I'm going to finish it in liberal arts.
Okay.
Right. Possibly social working. I would like to get into that. My daughter, that's her career. She works for the University of Milwaukee.
Okay. And then, what did you do for work before in your career?
I was a sheriff for Cook County.
You were what?
A sheriff for Cook County.
So where your mom lives and where you're going back to, is that your hometown?
It's next door to my hometown. It's still the same county.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier that after you had that knee surgery and you were kind of stuck at home and isolated, that you started to drink more. Is that fair?
I did, completely out of boredom.
Okay. Is that the only time that your drinking's been problematic for you, or have you had other issues with alcohol?
No, that's, I drank before maybe socially, but I've never abused it.
What about during your crime? How would you characterize your alcohol use that day?
I say it was more than I would normally drink, but I definitely do not blame the alcohol for the crime.
What's your contact like now with your kids? How often are you able to speak with them?
Well, my son is 27. My daughter's about to turn 26 in November. I speak to them weekly, or we do the O-mail. But yeah, I'm still very close with them.
And then I think my final question for you is what do you think you need in place in order to be successful?
In place, I'll follow whatever guidelines this parole board sets for me. I know I have the full support of my family and my community, my church community, my friends. I know that how recognize my red flags and my risk factors. I know what to stay away from, and I know the subtle changes that happen when I start heading the wrong path. I know that staying close to my God, keeps me in line.
I guess that wasn't my final question. One more, being in a law enforcement career in the past, how do you think that's going to affect your relationship with your PO?
I don't see a problem. I always followed rules. That's part of it. My sister is a sheriff as well.
Okay.
So, a lot of my friends are still law enforcement.
Okay.
I do not see a problem at all.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I think that those were the last of my questions for you.
Thank you, James. Do you have anything else? Nope. All right. This is my last question before we go further is, did you have any kind of criminal history besides this charge?
No, none. The only time was I was arrested for a suspended plate when I was a teenager that, a bond was paid and I had to buy the sticker for the plate and that was cleared and that was it.
Okay. And nothing in Illinois and no other states, correct?
Nothing. That's the only time that I had a problem with law enforcement.
Okay. Well, thank you, sir. We don't have any more questions for you. So at this time, if you have anything that you prepared for the board or you want us to know, you got the floor at this time.
Well, I had actually written something, but I think we covered most of it.
Okay.
I know being placed on parole, I could help society through my volunteer work, help others to recognize their own red flags and risk factors instead of being a burden on the taxpayers in prison. I can guarantee you that I would follow every guideline set by this parole board. There's no way I would ever come close to committing any kind of sexual crime or any other crime. I once again would like to thank you for your consideration and may God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Valenzuela. At this time, we're going to go into what's called deliberation, make a decision. So just sit back, you can listen. And then when we do come to our decision, I'll come back to you and explain, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues.
I guess I could go. I was pretty pleased with the interview. I think there was some nervousness he expressed, a little hiccup when my question to him was for his values. But throughout the interview, he shared a lot of things that are considered values with the education. Looking forward to liberal arts, getting back to what he initially had as his foundation within the community, to do volunteer work, being intrusive, learning through the classes of, being humbled and needing to continue the journey to self-educate and be better. And just shared a lot of things that gives me thoughts that, that he's on the right track in terms of trying to better himself. Mentioned family, which would be another value. His mother being a solid rock. Not having too many other issues with the law. Used to be a sheriff, know what that meant. Has a family member, sister who's involved. And, got around, as he states, alcohol and led to the mind going into a different practice and recognizing that he made a mistake and that he didn't act in accordance to what he values that I think he initially had set aside. Good relationship still with his kids and continuing that journey to navigate through his complexities. With that being said, I'm in agreement with DOC's recommendation to parole him to his mother. So a PG, D55, interstate compact, the 20A, limited internet, the 20B for no early discharge until sentence starting, and then the 40A, the substance abuse, but anything else that could be considered within that 40A, I'm open to from any of you all's suggestion, as well as the 50A, due to what initiated, that was a part of the decision he chose to make for this violation.
Thank you. Meredith.
Yeah, I'm also gonna support the department's recommendation for parole interstate compact to Illinois. Some additional, I agree with what James said, and then additionally, I'm looking at, his SOTIPS is low. His dynamic risk assessment tool that we do. So I'm gonna agree with the codes James had in the 40A, the SOTP aftercare and the substance abuse, and then the 50A to start because alcohol was an issue. The no early discharge. I do agree with starting with that internet restriction because he talked about one of the things he learned in treatment was about, pornography.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to add that in our comment section just so we know where that is coming from. But those, I agree with those codes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Valenzuela, I'm going to give you my verdict as well as we are unanimous in agreement of your release to Illinois. You have a very limited history of crime and you seem to have a good grasp on the treatment. And it's our hope that you just continue to put forth everything you need to be successful. You know what success already tastes like, so you just need to get back on track. Like you said, if those things that are important to you, get back into your church. Sounds like you have some pro-social friends. Stick close to those kind of people and you'll do fine. So we're going to release you. We're going to put some codes on you as well as to your standard parole conditions. We've got a PG D55, meaning you're going to Illinois as an interstate compact. 20A, we want the limited access to the internet. Those are kind of things you can discuss with your PO. Your PO will be able to look at your phone too as well, just so you know. Did we say a 20B on this one? Yeah, the 20B because you're on law lifetime. The SOTP aftercare we want you to engage in. The 50A means you cannot drink, period. We don't want you around any alcohol, period. No liquor stores, no bars, okay? The 40A, we want you just to get a substance abuse evaluation in case you need some help or you're struggling or at any time. And I think that's it. Did I miss any codes?
No, 38.
38.
38. Thank you. I felt it. And the 30A for being around.
No,
there's no 38.
38.
No, it's okay. That owns me. That's okay. No 38, sir. So anyway, that's your standard condition parole, which your parole officer will go over those as well. Do you have any questions for us?
No, I like to thank you. Full agreement, willing to comply with whatever, is set before me.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And you have a good life and continue to do well.
I'd like to thank you again, and may God bless all of you.
All right, you as well.
Good luck.
Take care.
We'll take 5.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's take
please.
just a quick 5-minute break and then we'll be right back.
Hey, Manuel.
Yes.
Hey, are you sitting in also for Jared?
No.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
okay. Then for us, I think your morning sessions conclude our time with you. And if you could let Jared know that we want to take a little 5-minute break and then we'll be back within 5.
I gotcha.
Hey, thank you, Manuel. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello,
Hey, how you doing? Is Jared?
this is Jared.
All right, Jared. I'm James Moses. Um, before we bring in Mr. Ingram, is there any information additional that took place since the last time this evaluation was submitted?
No changes to my knowledge. Ingram has been on my caseload for only a number of days because he was transferred from Hobbs' caseload.
Okay.
So, to my knowledge, nothing's changed.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, if there's no highlights and no addition to colleagues, do you have anything for Jared?
Good, thank you.
Everybody good? Hey, Jared, you can go ahead and bring Mr. Ingram in.
Okay.
Hey, thank you, sir. Good morning.
Morning, how you doing?
All right, all right. Before we get started, can you please give us your full name and your state number, please?
Thomas Aaron Ingram, 627-5337.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ingram. Before you and your screen is the Iowa Board of Parole panel. To my left, or excuse me, my name's James Moses. To my left, in the middle, to your right is Meredith Lamberti. And to her left and to your right is Jesse Rincon. All right. Just want you to know with this panel, this is a public forum, and members of the public and the media can listen, but however, they will not participate. During this interview, personal and confidential information may be discussed, including but not limited to your medical history, your mental history, your treatment history, and other confidential information. Is that what you are to understand of this process interview today?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you wish to proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How this is going to go is that we're going to give you the floor. I'm going to ask you some questions. Within those questions, you do the best to answer as best you can, briefly, but in your answers, then I will look to conclude my questions and turn it over to my colleagues who may have some questions for you. You answer them to the best of your ability. After that, what we will do then is I will come back to you. I will give you a last opportunity to maybe share some information for the panel, just in case you forgot some things and it came along the way that you wanted to state before we go into what is called our deliberations. When we go into our deliberations, I'm going to ask you to sit back, listen, not participate or engage with us, but listen as we're going to discuss before you your impressions from the interview, and we're going to make a decision and decide what's going to be the potential outcome for your case. Then once we come to that outcome, I will come back to you to try to do my due diligence and my best to explain what that outcome is. And then we will conclude the interview and go on from there. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so from the start, tell us the events and things that took place that led to you being incarcerated.
For back on the parole violation or my main case?
Let's do them both.
All right. My main case was sexual assault sex abuse in the third, and its acts with the child. And basically, I was accused of raping my 12-year-old stepdaughter.
Okay.
The reason why I'm back for the parole violation, I caught another felony doing a home inspection from the police department. They found some dope, under half a gram of methamphetamines in my house. They did a raid for stolen property, which I didn't have no stolen property on the property at the time. I was away from the home when they did the raid. And they found dope in there due to some buddies of mine were there at the house when they did the search warrant.
Okay. Kind of walk me through when you picked up the new violations that revoked you. What was that communication like with your PO?
With communication with my PO, I did everything completed. UAs were immaculate, no drug problem. Everything was clear.
Okay. What are some things that prior to being arrested and being revoked, what are some things that you could or would have done differently?
Well, I wouldn't let people in my house while I was away from the home. Change better group of companions that are there at the house, friends. Have a better support group of friends.
Okay. Tell me some things that you've gained since being incarcerated.
I did job seeking in the state of Kansas, and how to cope with some other mental issues with my depression. How to try to focus on how people are acting around me.
Okay. And so when I hear you mention depression, give us a summary or give us some thoughts as to what we should know about that, about your depression.
Well, I've been diagnosed with bipolar depression disorder, stage 2. Of my childhood of growing up, how my lifestyle was growing up as a kid. Due to the fact my dad was abusive, alcoholic, and all that, and so we've had a pretty rough growing up as kids. And so I dealt with depression my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
So now my mom's out of the picture. She passed away November of 22, and my dad's, I don't even speak to my father. So only thing I got I do to keep a good, strong support group is my brother and my sisters and family other than my father.
Okay. I appreciate you being transparent, Mr. Ingram, sharing that information. Sorry about the loss of your mom in November of 22, I believe you said.
Yep.
Okay. You have my condolences. What if you are released to go and reside with your brother? What can we anticipate and what can we expect from you in preparation for that possible or potential transition?
Well, you can expect me not getting no more parole violations, and my brother would be help me out a lot on help with character people around me, that would keep positive people around us so we do positive things. So he's been with me through this whole thing, and he knows where I made mistakes, and we're going to correct them.
Okay. for now, I'm going to stop my questions and turn it over to my colleagues. And then I may come back after they're done to ask you maybe a question or two. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Next colleague, Meredith. You have
Yeah,
anything for Mr. Ingram?
I just have a couple of questions for you, Mr. Ingram. Were you collecting Social Security before in Kansas, or will this be a new application that you want to pursue?
Well, I have to refile that every time I get close to my date of getting it, I get locked back up. I was
Okay.
already granted it, but I got locked back up. So,
Okay,
but I'm also self-employed also.
okay, so, what was the basis for you applying for Social Security? Was it mental health or physical health?
Physical.
What are your,
Broke my neck in 2013. From vertebrae from 2 to 7 are fused and pinned together, don't have all movement.
and what are you doing? You said you're self-employed as well?
I'm a small engine mechanic, an ATV mechanic.
And are you still able to do that?
Yes, ma'am, at part-time.
When you were in Kansas before, did you parole to your brother that first time?
No, I pulled back to my home, personal home.
Okay. Okay. And this time you'll be starting out with your brother?
Yes, ma'am.
I think those,
I think it's a better fit for me to start back home with him first.
did you own your own home or were you renting?
Own.
Do you still own it?
Yes, ma'am.
And who's taking care of it for you now?
My little brother, we have my brother-in-law living in it, take care of the property and stuff.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I think those were the only questions that I had for you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, Meredith. Jesse.
Thank you, James. Hello, Mr. Ingram. I'm Jesse. Nice to meet you.
How you doing, sir?
Good, thank you. So while you were describing your crime, you described the original crime, you said you were accused of. That was kind of strange wording for me. Did it happen?
Well, right now I'm currently with the PCR of that crime, and I go back to trial on it in February 5th of this year. Coming.
So you're fighting that case?
Yes, yes, sir. I got it reopened, and we're going to trial on it.
Okay. And then you also mentioned describing what happened, that you had clean UAs, but they found dope in your house. Were you using it at the time?
No, sir.
It was not your dope.
No, sir.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, the reason why I had to take the charge because it's my property, my house, and the terminology is my problem. I was the only one on parole, and nobody claimed their own stuff.
Okay. Do you have a driver's license currently?
Yes, sir.
It's still current, or you have to reapply of expiration?
It's current. As soon as I get home, I have to renew it. It just expired October 1st of this year.
Okay, so you still have a little time. Okay.
Yep.
Were you, besides the physical abuse growing up, were you ever abused of sexual abuse when you were younger?
No, sir.
No. Okay. When you took SOCP, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you remember what some of your cognitive distortions were?
The dangerous world.
Dangerous what? I'm sorry.
Dangerous world. The schema of it, the common disorder. We didn't discuss a lot of that in the treatment that I took because I did my treatment through the state of Kansas.
Okay. What did you guys discuss in your treatment? Was it something that you covered?
It's over your mindset, anger, it's basically how you feel and how you deal with situations. So it's basically over your mental. mental, how to cope and to proceed.
Did any of that help you out, or is it just stuff you already knew?
Yeah, it helped out a lot.
Okay.
So it helps with how you take down the order, the events, how it came down, and how to break it down so it don't happen again.
Have you ever been diagnosed with anything?
No, just bipolar.
Are you taking meds?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have no more questions for you. Thank you for asking ones I did have.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jesse. All right, Mr. Ingram, I initially thought I was gonna have one or two more for you, but I'm going to conclude and not have any further questions for you. So this is your time where you can share with us any additional information that you felt you didn't share. This is the time to do so.
I do appreciate seeing you guys today. I do encourage me to go back home to my family where my brother is, so I can see and do not come back to any prisons, because I'm too old for that stuff anymore. And I do appreciate if you guys would grant me the wish to go back home, so I can get everything restarted back up and be happy and move on with my life. I appreciate it. Thank you.
No. And any last bit of info? Is that it?
No, I just want to be get back and be the pillar in my community.
Right. All right. Well, thank you for those that bit of information. Now it's time for you to sit back. We're going to go into deliberation, so you'll get a chance to hear. But like I said, you won't be able to, don't engage us. You'll get a chance to hear what decisions we come up with, and then I will come back to you to explain. Okay?
Thank you. Yep.
All right. Colleagues, anyone wants to
go? I think you had a good interview. I see that going back to Kansas City might be a good one for him. I was just a little confused when he said accused. I didn't realize he's going to take that back up.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna defer to you at this time.
Yeah, so I had been reading because I saw that there was discussion back and forth with classification on whether or not he'd have to take SOTP again in Iowa because of that. And I thought when I read the notes about him challenging SOTP that it was for the allegations in his Kansas violation that were later dismissed.
I'm confused with that too.
Yes. Because in reading, the violation in Kansas, there were some allegations, some sexual allegations, and then ultimately he was just had the charge for the possession of methamphetamine. And so I thought that was going to be what he was challenging it, because I know there are procedures where if there's sexual components to revocation that they can take it again. It does not appear to be that way. It appears that he's challenging the underlying Iowa conviction. I'm kind of in two places on this, because I do see the generic note in August that Treatment Director Larson put in saying that, he did successfully complete sex offender treatment in Kansas in 2021 using a cognitive-based program. So he's not required to take it in Iowa. I'm also looking at a SOTIPS that's high at a level 35. I'm looking at denial of what happened. Understanding PCRs, we don't need to get into that, but right now, it's concerning to me that he is denying it. We have his TDD on this revocation is in 2025, but then he has a lifetime special sentence. I guess I'm personally, unless you guys have anything compelling for me, of a mind to just put him on a special on that TDD. and keep them until then personally, but I'm open to hearing what you
That's
guys
why I
are.
wanted to hear your
Yeah.
piece, because I wanted to see if you saw what I saw,
Right,
and that's where I'm at.
right. Cause I just don't know how that risk can go down if there's no acknowledgement of it. And right now where we're at is he's taken it to the Court of Appeals and lost already in 2017.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, collectively, with that in mindset, with the high risk for SOTIPs and the denial for for what's pending, and with the time that he still has on this particular case, I mean, I guess we can just pause and just wait to see what that outcome is going to be.
So we can do it one of two ways, I guess. I think probably Trish, I need your input. We can do this one, so we could do it as a denial, or we could just do it as a special sentence on the TDD. Which way would make the orders less messy for everyone? February.
This coming February, I think we'll find it.
Okay, all right.
Just put a parole special sentence.
With the future effective date.
Future effective date.
Yeah. So then he'd go to, well, it would be a special sentence interstate compact, and then we would have an effective date of the TDD in February. And I can walk you through all of that here in just a second as I get it open.
So basically, in PG still D55.
SSG. It's a D64 actually.
SSG.
And then we just change the effective date to 27.
2025. What, any other codes I should add to that, or just that for the denial, or should I put that's what I'm.
Let me type this all in.
Yeah. Sorry.
Feature. So this one, we'll have, so it'll be going back on the lifetime special sentence. And so that is ending in 3-3 with a minor victim. So it'd be no early discharge, no internet, no contact with minors. And then in the 48 SOTP aftercare, and then I would personally continue to put that substance abuse in there because it wasn't his house. So at a bare minimum, he was hanging out with people that were using.
Yep.
And then I don't think it's unreasonable to start with a 50A with that background either.
What about med compliance?
Yes, there you go. Mental health and med compliance. Yeah, good catch. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, James.
Okay. Anything else in addition to Jess, other than what Meredith stated?
No, I'm in total agreement with Meredith said. It's just that's what hung me up. I just knew, make sure we're on the same page.
All right. Here we go. All right, Mr. Ingram.
Yes, sir.
You witnessed and heard a lot of our communication. So with that being said, I'm going to do my due diligence to try to break that down for you. All right.
Yep.
So we are made somewhat of a change within the recommendation of the outcome, but what we want to do is parole you to your special sentence and do a future effective date. You have a case that is pending that you stated, and there is no decision at this time. So what we want to do is allow that time for that decision to be made so that we can, see what would be the best transition for you. So what we decided to do is do a SSG D64, which is the interstate piece to Kansas, but with a future effective date that wouldn't start until February 27th of 25. Okay. Within that, we have, in addition to some codes that was going to be attached to you. So that would be the 20A for the, internet and limited your use of internet. The 20B for no early discharge until your special sentence. Also the 30A, where there's no contact with minors. And then the 40A with SOTP aftercare, medication compliance, substance abuse, just because even though you state that you didn't have any involvement, but it was in your household. So we still want that, as well as your mental health. We want you to continue doing those things to seek the professional help that is helpful for you as you anticipate preparing to transition back home to Kansas to stay with your brother. Okay. And then we also want to have as a provision the 50A prohibition. And that is, we don't want you to be in any liquor stores or purchasing any liquor. But also, I would add, we don't want you to be in establishments whose primary source of income is alcohol. Now, you can't be in restaurants that have a menu. We understand that. But those establishments whose primary source of income is alcohol related, we don't feel that that is the best place for you to be. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But all these other codes that you're already putting down on me, I already have them.
Okay. Okay.
The
Well,
minor, the internet, that's all on my registry paperwork. You can't be around all that.
right, right. And so we just doing our forum to present to you from our board that information.
Yes, sir.
All right. So with that being said, that concludes this interview, and we wish you the best.
All right. Thank you. You guys have a good day.
All right. Take care.
I don't leave till the 27th and it's full back campus, right?
Thank you. Did
How's
all of
it,
it
Jared?
make sense to you with the future effective date and everything that we did?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yes, it did.
Well, hey, appreciate you because you were new to the client.
Yes, very.
So a lot of insight for you, huh?
Uh-huh.
Hey, appreciate you, Jared. Until next time, if you can go ahead and bring Aaron in, I believe, or are you handling Aaron's case?
I'm here.
Oh, you are? Okay.
She's there.
All right. Thanks, Jared.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Aaron.
Yes.
All right. Is there any additional information that has gone on since the last time you submitted this on Mr. Bean?
No, I am in a similar situation as Jared. This gentleman was handed to me from Mr. Hobbs. When I was handed from Mr. Hobbs, there was nothing new. He's got no new information.
Okay. All right. Well, that definitely helps. Let me see if my colleagues have anything for you. Aaron?
No.
Hey, Aaron, I guess we can go ahead and get started if you bring them on in.
I will.
All right. All right. How you doing?
Hello, how are you?
All right. Before we get started, can you please give us your full name and state number?
My name is Walter James Mead, number 6337150.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mead. My name is James Moses, and before you that you see on your screen is the Iowa Board panel that's going to be interviewing you today. to my left and to your right in the middle is Meredith Lamberti. And then to her left and to your right is Jesse Rincon. Okay. This is a public forum, and members of the public and the media can listen to this public forum. However, they are unable to participate. During the course of this interview, personal and confidential information may be discussed, including but not limited to your medical history, your mental health history, your treatment history, and other confidential information. Is that what you are to understand today?
Yes, sir.
Do you wish to proceed?
Yes.
All right. So how this is going to go is what we're going to do. I'm going to start off and I'm going to have you give us a pretty much just a synopsis or just a play-by-play of what were the things that took place that led to you being incarcerated. And then I may have some follow-up questions. From that, I can come back to you to ask a few more questions if need be, but then I will look to have my colleagues ask you some questions. And then from their questions, you do your best to answer to the best of your ability. And then once you conclude, and then answer any further questions that I may have, then what I'm going to do is turn it back to you to give us any last bit of additional information that maybe came up during the time of the questioning that you didn't get a chance to share. It would be your chance to share with us any additional information that helps to your potential outcome. And then I'm going to encourage you to sit back, relax as we prepare to go into deliberations. When we go into deliberations, we won't ask you to engage with us. We'll just have you sit back, listen to us as we communicate about the interview to decide before you what's going to be your outcome. Then once we get to that outcome, I will come back to you and try to do my best to explain it to you to the best of my ability. And then that would conclude our interviewing session. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right. So going back to the beginning, what were or what was some of the things that led to you being incarcerated?
Well, I had my parole revocated once, and then when I had gotten out, I went to the RTF in Sioux City. Basically, what it boils down to was me acting impulsively and not really following the rules of the RTF. And you know, a lot of my mental health comes into play with that too, I believe. But it comes to me, I ended up absconding from custody from the RTF, and roughly 10 days later, they found me, and that's why I'm here today. It was really just a lot of technical stuff I got in trouble for, no drug use or anything like that. Just, breaking little rules here and there, and then it adds up. And then eventually, I wasn't comfortable with the way I was being treated at the RTF. I'm not gonna lie to you, and that's initially what made me abscond from custody.
Okay. When I hear you say that you weren't happy, can you give us a brief understanding of what that unhappiness was for you?
Well, for example, now I'm very open about my mental health, and I had spoke with employees like the resident officers and my counselor there about it. They told me that if I ever had any problems to come and talk to them. And well, there was one specific day that I went to go talk to them, and there was a gentleman named Mark, and he's a resident officer there. And my counselor was in there with him, along with another resident officer named Deb. And I went to Mark and I said, hey, I need to speak to Whitney, who was my counselor. And I said, I'd like to speak to her. I'm having some issues with my mental health. And I was dealing with a lot of anxiety and stuff. And the way he responded is what kind of set me up, because he kind of leans back and he's like, oh, I'm sure we all want to hear this one. And Deb behind him said, what? He's like, oh, Mr. Mead wants to talk to Whitney because he's having troubles with his mental health. Very condescending, like, and Whitney, you know, she didn't even like acknowledge me. And I'm not asking to be babied. You know, I'm not asking to be babied, but you know, why tell me to come, you know, to you if I'm having troubles and then just kind of ignore me? And at that point I just said, you know what, man, I was like, never mind. And then I went to my room, and I believe it was actually the next day is when I absconded from custody.
Okay. And when you were going through that frustration, and I heard you mention Wendy, who appeared, Whitney?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Thank you for the clarification. Whitney, and you felt that she came to your aid or kind of saw things that, you know, you were feeling. Did it occur to you to even maybe see if you could talk with her about what you were feeling?
Up until then, Whitney was great. She was very attentive and very, you know, I would having troubles, and you know, I would even write things like poetry and songs and stuff, and she would let me read them to her. You know, she was really cool. It was just that situation. It would just seem like, you know, and like I said, I'm not trying to be. I don't want to be babied, but she didn't. She didn't even acknowledge. You know, they were all sitting right there together, and I know she heard me, and I felt like he was being very condescending. And at that point, you know, like I was so frustrated. I was like, you know, heck with it. I don't even want to talk to you about it if this is the way you're going to treat me about it. And it just it was just very aggravating. And I felt, well, if I, you know, I've been to the point with my mental health where I've wanted to self harm, you know, and I'm doing great now. I'm happy, you know, but it's just, what if I would have been there? You know, what if that's where I was at that point in time, you know, mentally, which I wasn't, but you know, who knows where their actions could have took me after that, you know, and don't get me wrong, you know, I broke the rules, and I did get in trouble, and you know, I'll take ownership for all that, and I'll take ownership for running, but I just want to make it clear as to why I did run.
Okay. And when you did run from what you recall, what you remember, how long was that?
Oh, maybe 10 days, I think.
Oh, 10 days?
Yeah, it wasn't very long.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
They got me at my doctor's office.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, and I was because I didn't have any of my medications, so I set up an appointment to go see my doctor. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh. It was just, it's kind of funny because it was really dumb of me to do it, uh, but that's where they got me, and you know, that's the story.
No, no, humor is humor, and it's abound in how it can touch you. And we saw that you were touched by that humor, and you had that aha moment at your doctor's office.
You know, I'm 43 years old. You know, I started doing time when I was 33, and you know, I've done a lot of growing up, but it's taken a lot of messing up for me to grow up, and really, uh, and I took treatment really serious this time too, you know, and I take the tools that I've learned in there, and that's really helped me too, just to kind of, I know there's times where I really need to kind of regulate myself and my behavior, and really value what's important to me in life, you know.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm going to conclude my questions for now. Who knows? I may come back with one or two more, but I'm going to go ahead and pass it on and see if my colleagues have anything. With that being said, Mary.
Yeah, I think I just have a couple of questions for you. Because it looks like you did SOTP at Newton and completed it in July. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Can you talk to us about the things that you learned about yourself as far as, you know, cognitive distortions and any, you know, risky behaviors or red flags that you need to look out for?
And And that's actually like an awesome question because I've learned a lot. And, you know, at a very young age, I developed a drug habit. And I don't know if you're familiar with the phrase arrested development. And, you know, I was doing a lot of drugs at a young age, and that really kind of suppressed a lot of my growing up. You know, it took a lot longer for me to grow up because doing those drugs during adolescence, you know, that really suppresses a lot of stuff. And this is just kind of realizations that I've come to. And, you know, I'm actually starting to look at things as an adult now, as silly as it kind of sounds. And I've learned to love myself. And as far as cognitive distortions and stuff, that, you know, I can maybe pinpoint a couple of those that I would use to justify the things that I would do in the past in order to make myself okay with it. You know, but really now I'm able to see those for what they are. So I don't tell my things in order to, you know, tell myself things to justify. You know, like if I'm going to do something, I want to do it, you know, for the right reasons. Not, I don't know if I'm getting my point across right. I shouldn't have to talk myself into doing something. If I have to talk myself into doing something, I probably shouldn't do it.
So what were the distortions that you were able to identify that you used?
You know, like, and I committed my crime over 10 years ago, but you know, it's, I'm not minimizing that. I just, you know, when I had abused that young lady, excuse me, I told myself, you know, hey, I was doing it at that age. So what's wrong with it? You know, I mean, and that was the major one, you know, and I know now that obviously that's not okay. And even though I justified it, it's still not okay. And that was a major one. And I would kind of use like, you know, because I kind of rough growing up, you know, and I would kind of use that as a crutch too, you know, that, hey, you know, I had a crappy upbringing, maybe, you know, hey, you know, show me some sympathy, you know, and that's not, I mean, to a point it's okay. And some people can show empathy about that, but it's not very realistic in real life. I can't expect everybody to feel sorry for me. It's just something I got to kind of deal with on my own and get past.
Okay. And then what do you think you need out in the community in order to avoid another revocation?
Well, I think, to be honest with you, I think it'll be fine this time. I think as long as, you know, I'm not blindsided by my parole officer. And what I mean by that is just knocking on my door, hey, you're screwing up, here's the cuffs, you know, like that would help. And I'll communicate that with them, you know, but I think maybe if, you know, as far as like smartphones and stuff like that, I think if maybe they put their parental control software on there, that'd probably be a good idea. At least then I can show them that I'm trustworthy. And I'll continue, you know, going to therapy and going to aftercare and stuff like that. And I honestly feel very confident and very good about it this time around, you know, and I'm not really scared, little anxious, but not scared.
Okay. Are you going to be going back to the same counselor that you've seen before, or are you going to need to start with someone new?
If she's available, I would like to. I have heard from another fella, I believe he actually seen the parole board today, a gentleman named Visser that I was in class with. He was seeking aftercare and therapy through a gentleman in South Sioux City, Nebraska. And I got the name of the business. I'm going to look into that and see kind of if I can, you know, knock out two birds with one stone there.
Okay.
But I would like to, I believe though that the one I was seeing, she conducted SOTP out on the street, but I believe she may have retired. But that's just from what I've heard.
It sounds like you're at least exploring what options are available to you, which is good.
I've always been open about my mental health. and I have to, because even when it comes to working a job, it can affect that. And where I've kind of butted heads with POs before is they're like, well, everybody gets anxiety. Well, no, not everybody gets anxiety like me. You know what I mean? Like, and one of my plans is to file for Social Security. I've contacted an attorney on that, and I do plan on like maybe trying to work some part-time hours. And I'm looking into furthering some education too.
Okay. So I guess two follow-up questions from that. The first one is, so are you taking mental health medications right now?
Yep.
And how are they going as far as side effects or how they make you feel?
I've actually all the years I've actually found some medication that works pretty good. So and I take it on a regular basis, and so it's working good.
And then would this be a new application for Social Security disability, or have you had it in the past?
This is going to be new, but like I said, I got some help with the situation, and I've found that given the amount of time that I have done incarcerated, that will actually help in the approval process of getting it. I've written the Social Security office; they've written me back. Took about 4 months, but they wrote me back, and they even give me a reference number. They said that once I file to actually send the letter that they gave me back with it, it's got some kind of reference number on there. So it sounds like it's probably not going to be as hard to get it.
Okay. And then what kind of work do you think you'll be able to do part-time?
Honestly, what I would like to do is I really enjoy helping people, and I would love to find something to help people with, like, in recovery, stuff like that. Even if it's at first on volunteer basis, it's something I'm really passionate about. But I mean, but realistically, I think I would probably end up going through some type of staffing agency, and there's a lot of factory jobs around there in Sioux City. So I don't think once I get some part-time work, I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering my questions. I think that was all I had.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Meredith. Jesse.
Thank you. Hello, Mr. Mead. I'm Jesse. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So I was listening to you when we first started, and you were describing how you felt that your PO or whoever was being kind of condescending. But I'm looking at some of the reports. It looks like you were self-sabotaging. I mean, you got caught with vape pens, you got caught with pictures, you got caught with contraband. Before all this happened, what was the real reason you absconded? Was it for drugs, or was it because you were offended?
I don't do drugs.
Okay.
So no, that's definitely not the reason there. There was accusations of that. As far as the pictures, those were album art that I had put on my phone, and they accused me of having a picture that objectified women. And you'd have to see it was just album. When I put a bunch of music on my phone, some album art went on there with it, and that's what it had to do with. But that got straightened out. The vape pen, I'm dead to rights, guilty on that. I did have a vape pen in my bag. Like I said, it probably does seem like self-sabotage because, I was being impulsive, and I wasn't, self-regulating. I wasn't, paying attention to how I was acting. I was just doing what I darn well pleased, and that's what it come down to. I can't lie to you about it. And I'm sure that might have some of the reason why they were kind of harping on me more than they probably normally would, which in return, it had some effects on my mental health too, so and I'm being realistic about it. But it got to the point where I didn't know how to handle it. So I did what I did, and to be honest with you, and that 10 days that I was gone on the run, the only thing I did was watch movies and drive around and walk around in the state park, enjoy nature. And I was happy, I was relaxed, I wasn't stressed, but I went about it the wrong way. And if I could do it again, I I'm a little more level-headed now. I believe I'd probably make a different choice.
So, considering your original crime, what steps will you take not to reoffend? What will be some of the red flags you will avoid?
To be honest with you, sir, I couldn't do that again to another person. Not only, I mean, did I affect that young lady's life, I affected her family's life, maybe her extended family, my family. I, I can say that I'm not going to do it again all day long. And, you don't know that. I get it. You don't know me. I don't want to hurt people. You know what I mean? And I don't feel that's in my nature. And the reason I did what I did was because of my own insecurities and my way I looked at myself, my low opinion of myself. And I really, if it wouldn't have been that young gal, it would have probably been some other woman, because I was just going around trying to look for new reasons to validate myself, and to make myself feel better, like most guys that go out and do drugs. Well, I was going out and sleeping around, and I was using that to always finding a new partner to revalidate myself, to make myself feel better, to make myself feel like, hey, I'm wanted. And that's the reality of it. And I know that now. And actually treatment helped me out a lot with that too, just realizing why I did what I did.
Well, I appreciate that. That was a super honest answer, saying if it wasn't that girl, it could have been somebody else. And at that time, yeah. So do you feel confident now that there will not be a somebody else?
Sir, I can guarantee you there would never be any else.
I appreciate that. I have no more questions for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jesse. Any follow-up, anyone? Okay. I thought I was gonna have some questions, but you answered them with the questions you answered for both my colleagues. So with that being said, Mr. Mead, I'm gonna turn it back to you. This is your chance to give us any additional information you would like for us to know before we go into deliberations.
I honestly, I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to me and taking what I say to heart, and I appreciate that. Like I said, I feel like I have a better outlook on things now, and I think that as long as I'm transparent with my parole officer and I get the therapy that I need, I think everything will be okay this time. I'm not really out there, and there's a lot of stuff that's happened. My parents' health is getting bad, and I want to really, cherish the time that I have left with them, and I think that's one of the main things that are motivating me today too, is the time with my parents, because they're getting up there, and my mom's not doing too well health wise either, and I want to take what time I can with her, and and they need help too, because they're getting older. Dad can't really mow and shovel the lawn and shovel the walk anymore. My mom's kind of, I think she might be getting some dementia or something, but that's what's important to me, is to be able to get out, stay out, and spend time with them.
Okay. Thank you for that last bit of information. What we're going to do is go into deliberation. So you sit back, don't engage us, but just sit back, listen, and then I'll come back to you with the outcome.
Okay.
All right. Colleagues, anyone wants to go?
You go first, if you like. Yeah, I think you had a good interview. I think there was a point in time where he was super impulsive, especially being at the release. I'm seeing some of these violations that were totally avoidable. But with a little time passed, I think he has grasped the teachings of SOTP. A key factor for him, I hope, that he builds that relationship with his PO. He's got to understand that a PO's time is limited too, and there's slots where they can fit you in, and if he can't do it at that time, you got to have a little patience. So I just hope that he understands that part. So I'm in agreement with the DOC recommendation. Let's see. So we'd be going to be an SSG D6 with 48 substance abuse, SOTP aftercare 20B, and the 50A. And if anything I missed, please add.
Okay, thank you, Jesse. Meredith?
Yeah. I'm typing down so I don't lose my notes for myself. Okay, so I'm gonna support this recommendation. You know, he's in on a revocation and completed SOTP this summer and was able to acknowledge some of his cognitive distortions. Looking at a SOTIPS that's low post-treatment this time. I think that perhaps this parole plan will be better for him, going to his dad's instead of the work release, and so I can support it. I'm gonna, let's see, so there was a minor victim, so we'll need that no early discharge, we'll need the limited internet, no contact with minors, 40A, SOTP, aftercare, mental health, medication compliance. I think actually, I don't see it identified in the needs and interventions. And that's something the PO can add if they see it as an issue, becoming an issue.
58.
Yeah, no.
Anything else, Jeff?
That's it.
All right. SSG D6. Okay. All right. Mr. Mead, as you got a chance to hear both my colleagues, the only person you didn't get a chance to hear was me. But that means that I'm in agreement with both my colleagues. So with that being said, thought this was a good interview and appreciate the transparency. But you had some humility going on, and that's refreshing. So knowing that the relationships you can be better in, and not look at the condescending remarks, but being able to have that communication, as my colleague was trying to suggest. Hopefully some tougher skin too. Just being able to absorb some things. Call it breaking bread, so that you can sit down at the table to be able to discuss some challenging conversation content, but being able to just talk it through for the best solution. Because ultimately, what I hear you saying is you want the best solution for the best outcome, so that you can practice and showcase behaviors that can be helpful, more importantly for yourself, but to the people that you do want to inspire, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Okay, so codes that is coming to you. The SSG D6. That means that we are in agreement with the DOC's recommendation to parole you to your dads. All right, the 20A, that's the limited the internet. The 20B is for no early discharge. The 30A is no contact or indirect contact with minors. The 40A, which is the SOTP aftercare that we talk about, that's ongoing. The mental health, you recognizing, and you also talked about being open to a therapist, but continuing to work with the professionals, as well as medication compliance. Just making sure that you are complying with the prescription that is set aside for your well-being, as opposed to you self-indulging and creating your own prescription. We don't want that. All right. And lastly, did we say the 58? No. Okay, I'm sorry. So then lastly, that concludes the interview for today. And the only thing that I will say is wish you the best.
Thank you, and I appreciate it.
All right. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you,
No,
Aaron.
that's it. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Okay, are you guys
I'm ready.
good to go to our last one?
Good.
All right. So we have Mr. Visser up next and last. Let me get his evaluation pulled up real quick. You just need 1 second. Okay, yeah, hi, Courtney.
Hi.
Any updates or anything that we should know about Mr. Visser before we bring him in?
So I think when I wrote his board of parole, he was on tip 3, but he did move to tip 2. He had, it just wasn't him, but there were some of people in the servery that stole food.
Okay.
He didn't get a report out of it. He just got a tip reduction. So just an FYI for you. Other than that, there's been no other changes. He's always polite to me and listens to my recommendations and everything. So
Okay. Any questions before we bring him in?
I know.
All right, we're ready for him.
I'll go grab him. You can take a seat right there and they're on. So.
Oh, I get to sit in the competition.
Yep.
Sit right here.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you please state your name and your ID number for me?
Jesse Visser, 6783424.
Thank you, Mr. Visser. My name's Meredith Lamberti, and here with me are Jesse Rincon and James Moses, and we're the 3-member panel of the Board of Parole who are going to be talking to you today. So before we get started, I want to go over some things with you so you know what to expect. So the very first thing that's important for you to know is that this Zoom that we're on is a public forum. And what that means is that members of the public or the media, they can listen to your interview, but they can't participate in it. But because they can listen, it's important that you know we might discuss some personal and confidential information today. And that includes, but isn't limited to, things like your medical history, mental health history, your treatment history, or other possible confidential information. Did you understand that those are some things we might talk about today?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. So what's going to happen is that each of the 3 of us might have some questions for you, and we'll start with our questions first. And then once we're done with our questions, that's when you'll have the opportunity to tell us anything else that you'd like for us to know or anything that you might have prepared for us today. And then once you've had a chance to make a statement, then the 3 of us are going to go into our deliberation where we discuss what our decision is going to be. And we'll do that here on the Zoom, so you'll be able to listen to that discussion as we're having it. And then once we reach a final decision, I'll come back to you. I'll explain anything about it that might be confusing, and then that will end our interview for the day, okay?
All right.
You ready to get started?
Yep.
All right, so it looks like you are in on a revocation and that there were some issues in the work release going on. So can you talk to us about what happened and what led to you revoking your special sentence and coming to prison?
Ultimately, it was mostly porn that I kept having problems with. I kept letting the stress that I was dealing with get the better of me, and I continuously would violate my conditions of treatment and look at porn or use unregistered device. And I failed the polygraph twice. One came back inconclusive, and that's what ultimately sent me to jail.
Okay. Has porn always been an issue for you or something that you've turned to when you felt stressed?
It's been an issue for a good majority of my life.
So it looks like you were able to successfully complete SOTP in Newton this summer.
Yep.
So can you talk to us about some of the things that you learned, some of your distortions or some of your red flag behaviors that you need to avoid?
Well, I need to learn to, I learned to better identify that when I'm feeling stressed out, I should talk to people instead of trying to hide my feelings, specifically my either counselor, parole officer, or my treatment group, and see if they can help me work my way through the difficulties I'm having, or if somebody in group has had maybe the same kind of issues or struggles, and if they could give me some advice rather than just try and with it myself and alone and keeping people shut out.
What are your plans for learning to deal with that stress? Like, have you seen a counselor before? Or are you planning to see?
I plan on going to see a mental health counselor as well. I'm gonna be more open and communicative with my parents, as well as my PO. And basically, I need to learn to hold myself accountable and keep myself from falling down that hole again.
And are you taking any mental health medications right now?
I am taking antidepressant and anxiety medication, fluoxetine. I'm taking 60 milligrams every morning. I might have that bumped up when I get out and see if that helps a little bit more.
When did you start taking that?
That would have been my last stay in prison. I don't remember exactly when, but it was like maybe 2019, 2020.
Were you taking it when you were at the work release?
Yes.
Have you ever had any issues with drugs or alcohol?
No.
What do you think you need in place out in the community in order for you to be successful? It sounds like counseling is a big key. Any other things?
Counseling and just, I think, the support of friends and family, and them constantly letting me know, look, you're not in this alone. You can do it. Because I feel like that's where I get discouraged, is I'll have a fallback and it'll just kind of destroy my confidence in myself, and then, yeah.
Okay. Who do you have as a support system?
Yes, I have my parents.
Okay. What's your relationship like with them now? How often are you able to talk to them?
If I wanted to, I could call them every day.
Okay.
I see my mom in video visit every Friday, so I'll see my dad when he's not at work anyway, on Fridays if he's there.
Okay.
But otherwise, I'm free to call them whenever I want, as long as they're not at work.
Okay, that's good. And then what about work? What do you think that you want to do or plan to do for work?
Well, I kind of wanted to I was thinking about maybe trying Seaboard again, but if I go back home, that's going to be a really long drive, especially with winter coming up. So I might check around and see what they got in maybe Rock Rapids or Rock Valley, because I know they got some production factories and stuff out there, or warehouse. Because I have driven forklift before, so that's something I'd really be interested in doing if I can find it.
Okay. I think those are the only questions that I had for you to start with. So I'm going to see if my colleagues have any questions for you. Jesse?
Hello, Mr. Visser. I'm Jesse. Nice to meet you.
Morning.
So a lot of my questions were answered, but I do have, I think, two of them for you. You stated that you were going through some stress when you were revoked. What kind of stress was you going through?
I think it was just more the stress from just, it was internal stress. I was dealing with problems in my head and my mental health, and I wasn't bringing them to attention to my counselor and my aftercare group. I was talking with my one-on-one therapist that I was seeing out there, and he was starting to help me get a little better about opening up, but I felt more comfortable with him than I did the other others. And yeah, I've had a bad habit of trying to hide things too, because I don't like, I guess, letting people down or disappointing people.
That
And
makes
I'd
sense.
rather deal with the guilt and shame internally than deal with it externally.
So the reason I asked you that question is, are you prepared now, if you are released, to deal with those internal stresses that you just won't say, oh, well, it's what it
Yes,
is. I might as
because
well just keep messing up.
yes, I believe so, because I don't want to come back here again. I've
And
missed about 10 years of my life because of prison and jail and the halfway house. I'm almost 30. I can't keep doing this.
you're right. You're right. You're still fairly young and, you can change all this around. Do you remember taking active?
I don't think I ever took ACT.
You never took active? Okay. And you did take SOTP, correct?
Yep. And I
What
was
did
also
you,
on MRT the last time I was down as well.
MRT? Okay. And what'd you think between the two classes?
Between MRT and
SOTP.
it was rough. It was kind of about the same thing.
Okay.
Honestly, the SOTP focused more on my sexual charge than it did my everyday life. MRT focused more on being accountable in my everyday life.
And that's exactly what I wanted to hear you say, that you did grab some from both classes. You were able to distinguish the two. I have no more questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
James, any questions?
Yeah, not necessarily a question, but maybe more so a comment for Mr. Visser. When I hear you talk about stress, I can kind of see it, and you appear to still have, frustration maybe with yourself and trying to deal with your personal stresses. And all I want to extend to you is keep those steps, and meaning keep them simple if need be, so that you don't overcomplicate what's out of your control sometimes, because it's those going back to what you may not appreciate, but I'm sure your mom and dad would. It's going back to those baby steps to, take the steps to accomplish things that helps you to build confidence in where you're capable of going. You've done the work. You're tired. Life is continuous, so time is of the essence. So in essence, work on that communication where you can reach out and trust other support besides mom and dad, because they are out there as well. But it has to, you have to have some faith with doing that, if that makes sense.
And I plan on being a lot more open with those around me, like as far as like my PO and my treatment team. That's where I drew the biggest issues the last time, was not being honest with them. But
Appreciate that, man. But that's all that I have for you, sir.
thank you.
All right. Any follow-up?
I do not.
All right, so now, Mr. Visser, is your time to tell us anything else that you'd like for us to know, or anything that you might have prepared for us today.
Everything I said is pretty much, I'm sick and tired of being in prison. I need to get on with my life, and I need to stop acting like a child and grow up, honestly. Because most of my problems came from me thinking I was, or acting immature rather than acting grown up.
All right, well, thank you for that. Sit back, listen, we'll let you know what our decision is. Jesse or James, I guess, what are your thoughts on the recommendations? This would be back to a special sentence for, to its parent.
Yeah, I think he had a good interview, and I was happy that he was able to distinguish the two classes, almost textbook. It's exactly, they are relatable, but they are different on what they focus on. I think he said what his main goal should be is communication, even when it's uncomfortable, even when he doesn't want to, is the best time to try to, convey what he's going through with his PO or family member, somebody that he trusts. So I am in agreement with the DST recommendation to parole the special sentence. That would be SSD 6 with the 48 with mental health. I would put down substance abuse, SOTP aftercare, and the 30A. And I don't think he has a lifetime, does he? No. The 20B gone now? Yeah, the 20B.
Yeah, 20B.
James, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. I liked the interview. I liked that Mr. Visser was being transparent. He seemed to know what's in his best interest, especially when he's stressing out, as he shared with us. He just have to do his due diligence to not, be too proud and not let his pride get in the way, and really allow the professionals that are out there that are willing to help him to embrace those relationships so that he can foster the behaviors that we collectively would like. Therefore, I'm in agreement, as my colleague stated, in adding the codes. In agreement with DOC's recommendation. So SSG D6 to his parents, the 20A for the internet, the 20B, which is no early discharge. 30, was there a 30A? Yep, 30A for no contact with minors. The 40A, looking at substance abuse, mental health, but also medication compliance and SOTP aftercare. I believe there was a recommendation for the 50A from the counselor. So I would like to echo what the counselor had as well.
Okay. All right, so I agree, and I'm gonna support this recommendation and go back on his special sentence. It sounds like pornography was his real main issue, and he was able to successfully complete treatment this time in Newton, and going out on that aftercare program is gonna help reinforce those lessons that he learned. He's gonna have the phone limitations and the surveillance isn't the word I'm trying to look for, but the programming that helps to keep track of whether he's looking at, pornography or accessing things on the internet that he shouldn't be, which is really his best path forward and to success. So I think I agree with all of the codes you guys have said. So Mr. Visser, we are going to go ahead and grant your special sentence. So you'll go back out on that special sentence. You'll be going to your parents' house instead of the work release. It sounds like they're a good support for you. So you'll have all the standard terms of parole, and then these codes that we were talking about, they'll be very similar to what you had last time, but some of the numbers and letters have changed. So I'll just go over that with you quickly. So to start out with, you'll have limited internet usage, and that will be up to your PO's discretion, what sites you can use and when. The 20B is no early discharge, so you will remain on that special sentence. The 30A is no contact with any minor child unless it's approved by your PO. The 40A is to engage in SOTP aftercare, continue with your mental health, your medications. It doesn't mean you're stuck with this medication, but it does mean that you need to work with a professional for any changes. And then we do see a recommendation for a substance abuse evaluation, so we'll put that on there, and then a recommendation to begin your parole with an alcohol prohibition. So that's no drinking alcohol, no being places where alcohol is the primary activity. So places like liquor stores or bars that don't sell food. Do you have any questions for me about what any of that means?
No.
All right. Well, thank you for your time today, and I wish you the best of luck.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.
Good luck, Mr. Visser.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Courtney. Yeah.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
You too.
All right, guys. Hey, I appreciate you guys tuning in. This is it. It's come to an end. I'm gonna go ahead and cut the stream. Really appreciate you guys, and we'll be back tomorrow. And like I said around here, life's like a candle. Once you blow it out, it's lights out. And with that, we are out. A rato.